Call the meeting to order at 6:30. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Trustee Pierce,
Present.
trustee Masek,
Here.
trustee Peterson,
Here.
trustee Bluthart,
Here.
trustee Berman,
Here.
trustee Dominiac,
Here.
Mayor Gardner.
Present. This is a public hearing regarding the vacation of White Road in Clubland subdivision. I turn this over to Administrator Keim and, Mr. Garrigan. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. This matter comes before you for a public hearing pursuant to state statute. Back in 2008, when the Clublands development was developed, there used to be an old farm road called White Road, which was part of the White family farm. When the previous developer did come through the process to get that entitled and proceeded with the first phase of the recording, unfortunately, they did not. They recorded the final plat over the road. They should have, at that point, vacated the road pursuant to state statute. So believe it or not, this development's been completely phase one, phase two, phase three have been built out. There are nice single family homes, nice neighborhood there. But the road theoretically, actually the right of way, which is kind of a phantom right of way, doesn't technically exist. There is no roadway there, but the right of way still exists. Under the approved lots and approved single family homes in phase 1, 2, and 3. We have been working with Lake County to clean this mess up. And based on that, what you have before you this evening is a plat of vacation. So there is a proposed ordinance this evening. This is a public hearing being heard pursuant to state statute. We did have to publish this. There is a public hearing. So what we are requesting this evening is really just what we call a housekeeping matter, a technical matter. Again, for the record, there is no roadway on they're all single family lots, but there's the right of way is still technically there. It still shows up on the tax parcel maps. So we'd like to clean those tax parcel maps up with Lake County. We've had several meetings with Lake County. They've requested this. So pursuant to that, we are requesting a vacation of White Road this evening. And with that, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. You do have the plat of vacation in your packet, which theoretically shows the previous roadway configuration.
All right, thank you. Trustee Pierce,
No questions, Your Honor.
trustee Masek,
No questions.
trustee Peterson,
No question, Chairman.
trustee Bluthart,
No question.
trustee Berman,
No questions.
trustee Dominiac.
No questions.
Thank you. I need a motion to approve the vacation. I need a motion to close the public hearing. Motion trustee Bluthart, second trustee Dominiac.
Yes.
Pierce,
Hi.
Masek,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Bluthart,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominiac,
Yes.
6 voting yes, 0 voting no. Hearing is closed, and I'll need a motion for adjournment on the public hearing, please.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
Motion by trustee Pierce,
Second.
second trustee Peterson. Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Masek,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Bluthart,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominiac.
Yes.
6 voting yes, a meeting is adjourned. Next, I'll call to order the committee of the whole meeting. We will go right to roll call, please, for the committee of the whole meeting.
Pierce,
Present.
Masek,
Here.
Peterson,
Here.
Bluthart,
Here.
Berman,
Here.
Dominiac,
Yes. Here.
Mayor Gardner.
Present. We have 2 attendees remotely this evening. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the January 12th, 2022 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes as presented. I'd entertain a motion in a second, please.
So moved.
Motion trustee Dominiac,
Second.
second trustee Peterson. Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Masek,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Bluthart,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominiac,
Yes.
6 voting yes, 0 voting no. Minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda is the mayoral report. As you know, I like to make acknowledgments of things that have been going on in the community real quickly at the beginning of the meeting. And one of the community groups that I know Trustee Dominiak is very heavily involved in. We do have Colleen Lennon on Zoom from AHA, which is the Antioch Area Healthcare Accessibility Alliance. So just as an aside, especially during COVID, the group has helped hundreds of families receive food every week, had COVID testing, transportation to medical appointments, help residents with prescription drugs, and on and on. The network provides outreach to the Antioch residents through home, office, and phone visits, help them with their insurance, Medicare, Medicaid, find doctors, and connect them. So anything that anybody would need assistance with as a healthcare provider, this is the group to contact. Their office is located here at Village Hall, so they're easy to find. And again, I wanted to thank Colleen and Mary and the rest of their group for all the work they did, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We couldn't do it without the village support. I just want to say that the staff there has been phenomenal. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Also, I just want to recognize the Antioch Police. And again, they had been put to the forefront of a missing person case from the area, not even in our jurisdiction, and stepped up out of, I guess, sense of duty and compassion to the family, and have extended their resources in that effort. Just again, a community effort. And I know the family has expressed to me the appreciation profusely. Public Works, I know they had a couple storms, so thank you for all the work they did, keeping the streets clean. And then finally, the Parks Department and Jim Moran put on a very nice wine walk event that was sold out. So again, thank you for the hard work of all of the staff and trustees to do that. So any citizens wishing to address the board at this time? Anyone on Zoom, if you're on Zoom and wish to address the board, raise your hand. If your hand does get raised as we move on, I'll go back. But as of right now, we will move on to the first item of regular business of the Committee of the Whole, which is discussion of a liquor request from Antioch Fine Wine regarding a code amendment in section 4-2B-10C4 related to expanded sampling. I believe that Mr. Adam Koch from Antioch Fine Wine is on Zoom. So I see him here, and he is going to present this matter to the board.
Thank you, Mayor. So my request is to remove that section of the village code that is 4-2B-10C4. And the reason for that request is business has been slow. We're down significantly, roughly. Last year, we were down about 17% in customer count versus each of the 3 years prior, which were all pretty consistent. Number of reasons for that. There's been a lot of supply issues with COVID, so that a lot of things are out of stock, making it difficult to get people in the doors. There's increased competition. There's a Binny's in Gurnee, another much significantly larger than us, retail liquor establishment with roughly 45 or 50 stores now throughout Illinois. Now, this section that I'm seeking to have removed does relate to gaming. It states that the extended license that we have would not be considered a pouring license for purposes of allowing gaming. And if it were, it would be null and void. In support of my request, I'll just say that we already have gaming in some respects, in that we sell lottery tickets and we sell lotto, big game, those kind of tickets, as we have since the 1980s. And we are also, we try to limit, unless we don't let people in to even into the store if they're under 21, unless they're accompanied by somebody who is over 21, a parent or a guardian. When this expanded sampling was first instituted several years ago now, gaming wasn't the same as it is now. It wasn't as, it's proliferated. It's everywhere now. It's at Piggly Wiggly. It's at the Bagel and Bialy place that I go to sometimes on Sundays for breakfast, which isn't in Antioch. I was in Richmond a couple months ago. I was driving down the street and every liquor store had gaming. I'm on I'm part of a board of a not-for-profit that's supposed to be helping independent retailers within the state. And one of the guys who actually the president of that organization, which is called FAIR, he doesn't even open. He's opened several stores. And he won't even open them unless he's allowed to get gaming at this point. So I just think that it may help our customer count, provide another income stream. And so that's why I'm asking for this amendment to the village liquor code.
Thank you. I'll open that up for discussion to the board. Trustee Pierce.
I really like the store and their facility, and I know they've been around for a long time. It concerns me. We've had a lot of organizations and businesses come before us that say, our business is down, please give us gaming, and we've turned them away over the last several years. And while I understand Mr. Kosh's position, and I can deeply appreciate it, I could also deeply appreciate the fact that we may have a floodgate open if we start opening this up due to economic concerns of a business. So I'd have to think really hard about this.
All right. Thank you, Trustee Masek.
I'm on the same concept. I started reading this, love Adam to death. Just want to state that. I think he's got a class, I'd rather buy, Benny's. Never been there. If I'm going to buy something, I'm going to shop Antioch. The gaming has always been tied in with liquor and restaurants. So again, we've got gas stations, same situation. You go to other town, they're down significantly, and there's a third gas station, unfortunately, that's opening right over the state line. Property was just purchased at cost. So now we're going to have 3 gas stations compete with our gas stations in Antioch. So with the increased taxes in Illinois and Lake County, those folks are going to have a struggle. So, we really got to think of who we want to help and who we want to support. So I really got to think this one through.
All right. Thank you, Trustee Peterson.
This is a hard question. I totally agree with my 2 colleagues here. I want to help the businesses all I can, but I do agree with Scott's saying that we're going to open the floodgates. And since I've been on the board only a year, I've had to answer that question. And they come and they say, I'm in trouble. And it will help our business. It'll help me stay open. We've turned them down, and I just have a hard time with this. And I too would like to think about it a little bit.
All right. Thank you, Trustee Bluthart.
Honestly, you can't go anywhere without walking in and seeing those gaming machines in other towns and every place else. I don't even notice them anymore. And the fact that we have them in Piggly Wiggly and don't allow them in another establishment like Antioch Liquors doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I would be in favor of looking at the gaming regulations, how we have it in town, and see if there's something we could change there so we can do something on that level. I don't want to keep having to do this piecemeal with each individual business coming in and asking, but if there's something we could look at about where we're allowing them, that, it makes sense. I mean, what they're talking about is correct. You drive around, you go in Wisconsin, the gas stations have them. You go out in Richmond, they have them. You go everywhere else, they have them. And we have them in most of our bars and restaurants in town, and I don't even recognize them anymore. They're always just sitting there. And so I would be open to looking at expanding that a little bit. It does bring us in some revenue, and if it helps out our businesses, so be it.
Thank you. Trustee Berman.
I agree with each of the trustees that have spoken. And I don't have anything else at this time.
Thank you. Trustee Dominiac.
Yeah, I have to echo what Scott Pierce said. I'm very concerned about, and I think, Adam, you used the word proliferation, and that's exactly what's going on. And I guess for me, I always have to think about what is it that we want Antioch to be known for? And it's not alcohol and gaming, as I speak with our constituents. So I would not be in support of this. I certainly understand that everybody's struggling, but what's to say then that Miss Peddlers doesn't come in and say, I'd like a pouring license so I can put video games in, and the thrift shop, and you're opening up a can of worms. So I'm not in favor of this. I don't need to think about it.
Thank you. Before
Can I-
yeah, I'm going to go around one more time for the trustees. So
One
if there's
time.
anybody else, Trustee Pierce, did you want to add anything else? Follow
No,
up?
I think I've said enough.
Okay. Trustee Masek.
The only thing with our social, we got a new social media, gentlemen. The one thing that I would love to see is I constantly see on Facebook, especially one website called Absolutely Antioch, is gosh darn, when someone says, hey, where's a good place? Use the web, we got to figure out a better way to promote Antioch. Everybody says, go to Gurney, go here. Gosh darn, we got to do a better shop Antioch. We do such a poor job, and that's what happens. That's how our downtown's ruined. That's how our business gets destroyed. When I was on the rescue squad, that was all we did, is promote Antioch, downtown Antioch. Even if you went and spent money in the township, at least you're going to Antioch. So, I mean, we don't do a good job promoting Shop Antioch. So we got to do a better job of that. So that's the only thing I'm going to say to help keep these businesses striving.
All right. Trustee Peterson.
I don't have anything to add.
right. Trustee Bluthart.
Nothing at this time.
All right. Trustee Bourbon.
Nothing to add.
Trustee Dominiac.
I have nothing else to say.
Okay. So it appears further discussion or thought is wanted by the board. So I would suggest maybe we put this back on a COW meeting in a couple weeks, maybe not 2, but maybe 4 weeks to reconvene on this. Okay. Thank you. Next item on the, thank you, Adam. Next item is discussion of a liquor request from Darny Gas and Food regarding a code amendment to section 4-2C-14C related to package sales limitations. I believe we have Mr. Sam Darny on Zoom. Is he on Zoom? Okay. Mr. Darny, if you're there, would you please present your proposal to the board, please?
Hi, this is Sam Darny. So I have a gas station down in the Antioch, the Shell gas station. So there's a age limitation on the employees has to be 21 to sell packaged liquor and cigars. So we are requesting that age limitation be dropped to what are the base limit of 18 as in the restaurants, so we can have more options to hire more employees, because there is a shortage of employees and we are struggling to find good employees.
All right. Thank you. I will ask the board. So Trustee Pierce, questions or comments?
Once again, this is something I really got to think about, because, there's reasons this law has been in place over the years. I think everybody's having a hard time hiring. I don't know. Don't know on this one.
Okay. Trustee Masek.
Well, I think the law is kind of a little bit outdated and, you know, I asked around on this and every purchase, and I can be corrected by Sam, but, and I talked to the other, you know, Sonny on this. But every purchase, if I'm not correct, and I think the chief can pipe in on this, but every purchase, that driver's license has to be scanned in for the purchase. Am I correct on that?
Yes, correct. And then the state law is 18. Somehow I think the village is restricting to 21. So, and then any other states in the bordering state and other states too, mostly to sell a packaged liquor is 18.
So the only, you know, here's the concern. So the concern is, okay, you got a 21-year-old, and he's going to sell to the 20-year-old, his buddy. Could that happen? Yes. So now you've got the 18-year-old selling to his 18-year-old, 19-year-old buddy. Sam, can that happen when you're scanning in licenses? Probably not, because everybody's got cameras over the registers now.
Correct.
So everything's been updated where that probably can't happen. It's just like giving cigarettes away to underage people, correct?
Correct.
So I think the law has got to be looked at and updated because there is a crisis of hiring people. You can just look around the restaurants. They can't find people to work. So I think the technology has taken over to really look at this, because with the cameras over the registers, the scanning of the driver's license in on every purchase, it's hard to cheat these days. So that's something for everybody to take in consideration.
And then I want to add, like, we have to turn so many good people who wants to work, but they're just not 21. We have to turn them back.
Thank you. Trustee Peterson.
And this is another one. The law is in place for a reason. I'd like to know, is this a state of Illinois law? No. So do other communities do this? Do we know?
There are different regulations for different communities. I can give you a rundown of my clients at the next board meeting if you want to, just to have a
Okay.
small sample size. But it does, state law is 18, and it's really a local control issue.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I'd like to know if any other communities are doing that. I understand, and I agree with Trustee Masek, we should actually look at that and update it, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if, you know, we're opening something. So I would really like to know what other communities are doing.
All right. Thank you, Trustee Bluthart.
I guess I would like to have a little more background. A couple trustees have mentioned that there's a reason that it's at 21 here in Antioch, and I didn't know if there's a specific reason that, you know, from the past, or if this was, or what that reason was.
Some sort of legislative history on it.
Yeah, if there's something that made it, or if it was 18 and we changed it to 21. I'd also like to see what the neighboring communities are doing as well, including those in the southern border or Wisconsin. But, and then I have a question, is it 21 in Antioch to serve alcohol as well? Or is it just for packaged goods?
I believe a restaurant server is 18.
It's 18?
And, yeah, and it's 21.
So we make it 18 for them to serve alcohol, but 21 in order to sell packaged goods.
I believe that.
I definitely would be open to looking at this.
Thank you, Trustee Berman.
It's going to be the same as last. I agree with everything everybody said. I'd like to think about it and look more into it.
Trustee Dominiac.
I have nothing to add at this time, Your Honor.
Okay. Anybody else? It appears like the last topic that there is some more consideration from the board, some research that would like to be done. So again, I suggest we again revisit this in not in 2 weeks, but one of the meetings in 4 weeks or so that we can find out the history on if it was changed at any time, and local and surrounding communities. Ages.
Yeah.
Sam, thank you, Sam. So we're going to ask you back here. So probably be a couple weeks. Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda is a discussion regarding the Antioch Theater. We have two individuals here to present, not on Zoom in person. Mr. Tim Downey and Miss Linda Motley are here to Motley are here to present. You guys, since you're here in person, you can come up to the dais here and
Oh. Okay, I left in front of all of your seats. I printed off a little document here. Sorry, it's not in color. I tried to print it in color, but the Antioch
let me ask
Library-
one question. Do the trustees on Zoom have a copy of this? The one she gave tonight.
It's the same as in the package.
Within the packet?
Is it the same? Is it
I think
okay?
it's just a printout of what's in the packages.
Okay, yeah, it appears to be the same. All right, sorry, it is the same as what's in the packet. I just want to make sure if it was additional information they had. All right, thank you. Go ahead.
So I'm here tonight I'm very excited to hopefully be working with Tim to take over the theater. And, I put together a little proposal here, the executive summary. Obviously, the theater is a really important part of Antioch. It is the hub of downtown. And Tim has done an amazing job of turning into what it is today and remodeling it and making it a great business and a great movie theater for families to go to. I think because it is.
I think that's one of the previous attendees and mute his microphone.
Yes, I don't know what they're talking about.
One moment, Linda. Trustee Dominiak and Trustee Masek. So you're not, I just want you to know that what is in the package is not exactly the same as what is given to us. So I know this is a COW meeting. I could ask.
I have it on email. I can forward it.
You can? Okay. If we can then circulate that, we'll circulate that.
That's fine. I mean, I think you're going to walk through it. So if you can send it to us, that's great.
Yeah,
But
we'll send it to you. Okay. I just want to make sure you're not at a disadvantage in discussing this if you don't have the exact document. So if we will circulate it by email, and even if it's even at the break between the two meetings. Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
Thank you, everybody. I know that there's some trustees that weren't here when I did the theater, so I thought I'd just give a little bit of background. Back in 2014, I think, I purchased a theater from the bank. It had closed and it was in terrible condition, and purchased it, added a second screen, completely renovated, put in sprinkler system, roughly an $800,000 renovation. As part of that, the village we implemented a 75-cent per ticket tax. And in exchange for that, there was a $200,000 loan that assisted in financing the theater improvements. On top of that, I did a Kickstarter campaign that would raise 130,000 roughly, another 130,000 or so in sponsorships from Raymond's Chevrolet and others. And it made money from day one. It's been a joy owning it. 2019, before COVID, was my most profitable year. Finally figured out how to do payroll. I'm in the consulting business. I live in Lake Forest. I'm not here on a daily basis. The kids that run the theater have done a marvelous job over the years. They've just gotten better and better. So I've been blessed with a wonderful crew. But I'm busier than ever. I've got 11 grandkids going on 15. So I'm just not there as much as the theater needs an owner to be there. And we did I'm very happy. I just came from Sturbridge, Massachusetts on a job, and the local movie theater closed in Sturbridge. And I felt sad for the theater, but we made it. We made it through COVID. First year was rough. We lost money. Last year we broke even. Little theater in Antioch, Illinois, in the middle of COVID, we broke even. I'm happy about that. But the industry is changing, and I know it is. I think we can all see it. COVID helped accelerate streaming, so now you got to compete against streaming. The amount of content that's coming out now and in the next couple of years is really limited. So there will be some good movies, but they're not going to be as consistent as they have been. So me doing what I've done and had the theater be successful for the last 7 years, it's probably not going to work, or that model won't return for several years until like the volume of movies pick up again. So it needs to be something more. And I don't have the time, more importantly, I don't have the talent to have it be something more. And that's where Linda steps in. She has the time and the talent to turn it into a hybrid facility that maybe it should have always been. It probably definitely should have always been. And that's where Linda will fill you in on that. I'll pass it off to Linda now, but just, I love having the theater open. It's never closed. It's open every day we can be open. With COVID, we have been open. And I just came from the theater before this. I'm getting all choked up here. We have 2 people tonight. But to me, it's a success because those marquee lights are on, and it shows life and quality and vibrancy to downtown. And I'm going to lose it here because the 2 people who showed up, a wonderful couple, probably in their early to mid 50s. They came there as kids. She told the story of all summer long. Grease ran at that theater all summer long, and she and her girlfriend saw it every week, all summer long. Her husband's her high school sweetheart. They had their first date at the movie theater. They were downtown at Oliveri and said, you know what, Amy, why don't we just go over and see a movie? It's that kind of dynamic that I think, well, I'm not the person to maximize it. When Linda has it and she has special events or better promotion than I'm able to do, instead of having 2 people there on a frigid, what is today, Thursday night, she'll have 20, 30, 40, 50 people there because she knows how to market better than I do, how to package promotion better than I do. So as much as I've loved having a theater and as successful it has been during my ownership, I know that for me and for the village, it's under better hands with someone like Linda to take it to the next step. But the fact that it's there is proven to be profitable, and it's in Linda's presentation. The last 2 weeks of December, we finally had some good movies and people poured out. It was a wonderfully successful run to the end of the year. So even in this troubled time with COVID and all this kind of stuff, the community said, if there's good product, we'll be there. And so product will come. Linda will bring new, fresh product to make it even better. So I'll hand off to you.
All right, thank you, Tim. All right, you can proceed. Thank you.
So with what Tim said, you know, it's a really exciting time right now for the theater to make it more of a hybrid and create more, not just movies, but events. And if you go through some of the proposal, and I'll talk about a little bit about my background in a moment, but there's some ideas of what's very relevant right now, like for Valentine's Day. You'll have it in black and white, but I just left a couple color pages. My color printer broke. So there's a new movie coming out called Marry Me with Jennifer Lopez. So we sat down and we put together some really fun ideas for Valentine's Day and put a package together, and worked with Oliveri to see if they would be willing to put a heart-shaped pizza together for the promotion, and worked with Something Sweet for them to put something together, and came up with a whole package that we're going to promote and just make it a really nice date night for people in the community. And then there's another one that goes with it that's for families, so that people want to do a Valentine's date night for their family with their kids. We're going to be showing the movie Trolls and doing the same thing, a heart-shaped pizza. There's going to be little treat bags for the kids, and, you know, just trying to create more experiences as opposed to just going to a movie and leaving. We want to create more experiences around the theater. There's another idea on that page too, is like, you know, we're thinking about doing a book club, and every month, and you read the book for 4 weeks, and at the end of that, you watch the movie that goes with that book. It just kind of another thing. We can, you know, bingo could be something fun because there's a stage in the theater. Dueling pianos, performers. Another unique idea was a wedding ceremony. You know, it would be a very unique place to have a wedding, because it has a runway, it has a stage. You can have we would make your own movie poster with the couple. You can have your own video playing in the background, either before or after your wedding or during. Just a lot of fun ideas that are unique and, you know, bringing the theater back to life. A little bit about my background. I have done marketing and branding my whole career. I used to be the vice president of advertising for a company called Marks Corporation, Chapter Marks. It was a big manufacturing facility in Chicago. They made all men's clothing. So I did all the branding and marketing for Tommy Hilfiger, Donna Karan, Burberry, Hickey Freeman, Jack Nicklaus, on and on and on and on. There's about 15 brands. Name Corneliani, Krizia, which were in Italy, and Austin Reed, which is out in London. And I did that for 12 years, and I started my own marketing firm and did that for another 15 years. And they closed their in-house agency and brought all their brands to my marketing firm. So I have a lot of history in just branding, marketing, doing events for Nordstrom and Dillard's, just branding and marketing has been my background for 30 years. So, and historically, on a personal level, I always throw these really big parties that are always having fun things. Scavenger hunts. I thought it'd be fun to have a scavenger hunt and help promote all the local businesses. So have the movie theater as the core, and branch people out on the scavenger hunt where they're going to go to all the businesses and they're going to get something for each one of these businesses, and maybe a food tour where they're, all kinds of ideas to help bring and tie in all the local businesses and just make downtown Antioch more of a destination.
Thank you.
This is all. And then there's just some historical information here, some bullet points that you guys can read. The future opportunities of the theater, some of the things that we talked about me, the plan, it kind of all goes together. More samplings of ideas that you have, like in December, there's a theater that I also live in. I have a place here in Antioch, but my parents have lived here for 30 years. And when they moved here, I also bought land up here, and now I live up here permanently, but I also have a home in the city. And there's a theater called the Music Box Theater. I don't know if anybody's had the chance to go to the Music Box Theater, but at Christmas time, they do this really wonderful thing. It's called the Christmas Sing-Along, and they show every year they do It's a Wonderful Life, White Christmas, and then some of the funny Christmas movies too. And they have an organ with a Santa, and they put all the words up on the screen, and there's a Christmas sing-along before the movie. So I thought just bringing fun ideas like that to the theater, doing for the families like a Polar Express event where the kids can wear their pajamas. We'll get some of the local theater kids from the high school or from the P&L theater, and they'll be the dancing waiters serving hot chocolate, and just creating more experiences, not just going to a movie, but creating experiences around the movie, and people think of the theater as a fun place to be. More private events. Right now I know they do a lot of birthday parties, kids parties, but there's no reason we can't be doing more adult parties, or like I said, the wedding ceremonies, sporting events, maybe anniversary parties where they're showing the video of the life of, a 50-year anniversary party, and they're showing a video on the screen. It could be really fun. More community events. We can utilize the theater for more community events, live performances, which I had already told you about, the dueling pianos, maybe some improv, comedians, and maybe doing a little bit more concessions. Might add, maybe thinking about maybe pizza or some other things. We'll see how that goes. And I'm not sure about that yet. And then if you go to the page where it says Pulse Magazine, again, I have some color pages there. This is unfortunately in black and white. It's not as dynamic, but I started to create, and I will need the support of the community, but I started to create a magazine called The Pulse of Antioch, and it was going to come from the theater, but it was going to help all of the businesses. So if you see, there's a section here that's local restaurants, and there's 62 restaurants in Antioch. They'll be all listed out, and they'll be featured restaurants, things to do in March.
We cannot hear her.
But if you look at the color page, you can see better. But the whole idea of the magazine was to create a more sophisticated voice, so to speak, that's coming from Antioch. And you know, it can be, we can talk about anything, but there's a wedding section, there's a sports section. We can highlight some sports stars in the high school. There's recipes, there's all the things to do. There's history and movie trivia that comes from the Antioch Theater. There's a whole section on the local restaurants, a whole section on local businesses. And each month we'll highlight a different restaurant and we'll highlight a different local business and do an article on them. So it's just another idea to create awareness for all the businesses and get people excited about Antioch. I don't, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I'm sure there's gonna be plenty.
Okay.
So I will first ask Trustee Pierce for questions or comments.
Well, it was great to hear all her ideas, but I'd like to hear what her proposal is.
Okay. So the purchase, so what I'm looking for is for the ticket tax to cover $375,000, the $400,000 purchase price. Right now, it's very difficult for a business that's been, even though it's breaking even, it's, you know, during COVID, the financials and everything else, it's not really a business that, you know, going to a bank with right now is in a good position, I guess, because of COVID. It's very difficult for anybody to get anything showing a business that is profitable during the last couple of years. So to be able to do all these wonderful things, I'm asking for support from the village to support the ticket tax at $375,000 out of the $400,000.
Okay. So.
And a liquor license. I would like to apply for that as well. And there is a financials page on here as well.
Correct. So are you looking for a $375,000 loan from the village? Are you looking for ticket sales to supplement your purchase price to pay into
the ticket tax would pay back the loan? Is that correct, how it works?
Pay back which loan?
It's not really I mean, he doesn't.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I had a $200,000 loan when I bought it with a 75-cent ticket tax. So that ticket tax is a tax that only patrons pay, right? And that is a source of revenue for the theater to pay the debt service on that loan. It's still the obligation, if the ticket tax revenue is insufficient to service the debt service on the village loan, then it's still the obligation of the borrower, me back when it was the 200,000, or Lyndon now for the 375,000, still the obligation to service that debt. But that ticket tax is providing, you can see the ticket tax at the $1 per head, given the pro forma, should be more than enough to service the debt service for that $375,000 loan.
So the answer is you're looking for a $375,000 loan from the village, and plus a ticket tax of $1 a head on movie ticket sales, plus additional tax for Yeah, $1 a head on all the events, all the tickets.
all
sold.
the events, and that's a revenue source for the theater. That's a source of the income source to pay the debt service on that
Okay.
loan.
So a loan plus tax plus a liquor license.
Correct.
The
Oh.
tax plays back.
Correct.
But, so my question would be, why not raise the price of the ticket by $1 instead of having the village tax you the $1?
Because that doesn't provide upfront financing. You still have to come up with the purchase price to buy the theater from me. And a bank won't lend that. So we need lending source in this environment to facilitate the purchase of the theater.
All right. You know, I want to be really, really clear. I travel around the country all over the place. I go to multiple towns, and there are so many towns that the movie theater is boarded up.
Mhm.
Like the marquees are almost falling off the buildings. And it saddens me every time I see that. Because to me, a movie theater is one of the things that is the heart of the city or a heart of the village.
Yep.
And that's why years ago, we supported your efforts years ago. And I think the village needs to find a way to work with Linda and you to make this work. I think we need to be very careful to ensure the village doesn't lose money. And there's some form of collateral. And that there's organizations like Shop Antioch. There's a group that does a Connections magazine, you know, that instead of supplementing maybe or supplanting, maybe working together to supplement each other on some form of magazine, if that's what you really want to do. And I think you need to flesh out some of your ideas on what you're going to do. I may be an old fud dud, but some of them sound like, oh, that'd be interesting. And others are like, I don't know. You know,
Ones were like, I don't know.
well, you know, dueling pianos, bingo. You know, the VFW would probably have a fit about bingo. Yeah, there's all sorts.
Dueling pianos is huge.
Yeah, could be. I don't know.
It is huge.
Okay.
We just,
So there, I know
have you
that.
been
I
to
know.
the McHenry Theater to any of their events?
No, I have not.
So
Okay.
they closed down their movie theater.
You might want
Oh, they closed down their movie theater just recently, last week, as a matter of fact, to only do events. They're not going to be a hybrid anymore. They were a hybrid for the last 2 years, and they decided to close the theater because they were making so much more money on the events. So it's kind of sad, but they're closing the movie theater. But they have the dueling pianos, they have comedians, they have all of the above, and they sell out all the time.
Who are you talking about? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Entertainment, the dueling pianos
No,
at the
what
McHenry Theater.
What
Oh, the McHenry Theater.
Thank you.
Yeah, those are very popular events.
It's just maybe not a world I'm in these days with my old gray hair and stuff. I don't know.
Well, you should
But
try it.
I should try
You're
it.
going to get an invitation.
But in the meantime, I think we need to find a way to work with you. I think the village needs to be very careful, just like we were back when Mr. Downey did this.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott. Trustee Masek.
Okay. You know, I think the theater is important. I think we've got to be very cautious, very cautious. You know, I don't think the taxpayers have, you know, we got so much money projects on the table right now, $375,000 loan. We don't have a P&L statement. We don't have any background statements. We have nothing, zero. So to take this idea up, we have to all have a fiduciary responsibility. You look like a fantastic person, everything else. And the problem you're struggling with is all these streaming companies. So it's an uphill battle. The liquor, you know, when you got kids sitting in the theater with the liquor and you're smelling Pabst Blue Ribbon and you got kids, to me that just doesn't work. It just, unless you're going to do private parties only with the
All
liquor.
the theaters do it now. Every theater, the Gurney Theater, the McHenry Theater, all the theaters have liquor in their theaters. Every single one.
I get the Gurney Theater, but it's a bigger theater. It's a bigger theater. Antioch's kind of a smaller theater. The chairs are smaller. And you know, I think we've got to ask the constituents, you know, are they going to bring their kids? And I get the concept. I get the concept of liquor and everything else. And to Trustee Dominiac's point, we don't want to be known as the booze town. You know, all this booze coming in that we're going to be the next Cicero. So I get that. I don't, you know, would I bring my 5-year-old kid to have him sit next to someone drinking Pabst Blue Ribbon? Absolutely not. Would I bring my grandson there? Absolutely not. Would I bring him? Would I segregate him to a different area in the theater? Probably. If you had it up at the balcony, probably. If you segregated the alcohol people, maybe. But
Most likely, if you
not-
brought a 5-year-old, you'd be going to an earlier movie. Most people would, it would be like usually the later shows.
I doubt that, because that the liquor is going to be liquor. You're not going to segregate the times of liquor. If I'm going to go to a 6 o'clock show with my grandson, you're going to have liquor. So that wouldn't be a true statement. And then if we opened the liquor, that would open you the gaming machines. So I'm not all for the liquor, and I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I just don't think Pabst Blue Ribbon, I'm picking at that beer because I think that's the stinkiest beer you can make, that they make, because that goes from my earlier years. But you know, I understand that the other theaters do it, the big chairs, and they serve meals at the table, at the chairs and everything else. I get all that. I don't know if the town is gonna sit there and say, you know, because people were complaining that we gave money to another place that we gave money out. Now this is funding for you. We don't have the background checks. We don't have, you know, everything, you know, everything's not in order. You know, I haven't seen where, to Mr. Downey, I haven't seen where a bank wouldn't get it. I haven't seen those rejected applications that a bank won't give the financing. So I haven't seen those. I haven't seen any applications that said no to. So I haven't seen any of that. So I get all that, and I get the McHenry Theater. I get, you know, it's a quagmire. I just
Building
don't.
can be the collateral.
I-
That's, it's,
I get all that, and you know, I've always thought the PML Theater too should, you know, comedy nights, that building's so underused, you know, nights of different shows. I get the path you're going down. If you're gonna mix young kids and booze, I just don't know. I just don't know the liquor license. I just don't, because, you know, we just said, well, we don't want, you know, that atmosphere of mixing kids with booze. You know, I get it. I'm not sure. You know, I'm not sure what the other parents are going to say to that. I just don't know, because a lot of people drop their kids off to the theater. And you know, that was my time when I go back to my childhood. We went to the theater when we were 12. You know, that was the thing. 12 years old, we went to the movies. That was the only gig in town. So if I had to sit next to someone with booze, you know, if you got a great movie that's there, you're kind of limited in space, and then you get some, you know, rowdy people that are drinking and won't, you know, shut the heck up. You can't enjoy the theater. You can't enjoy the show, because it gets people that drink. I'll just pick on a booze now, tequila. That kind of gets people worked up and kind of gets them noisy, loud. You can't enjoy the movie. So I don't know. I just don't know. So the two aspects, we don't have a P&L statement. We don't have the other stuff. So I don't, you know, I get the other part where we did the financing and the ticket before. I get all that. I just don't know the dollar, you know, to Trustee Pierce's, Brian, that raised the ticket price is $1. This is a hard cough drop to swallow on both tickets. You know, I don't think the village is in for being the bank of everything, because then the next business saying, hey, I got someone that needs to buy out. This is a staple business in the community. We want to be here, but the village has to be the bank.
So.
I-
No, I was
I just
actually.
don't know about it. So I think this one's got to be churned over for a while. We need some other paperwork of the stuff I talked about, P&L statements and whatnot.
So so instead of a debate, I'm going to go through the trustees and then I'm going to give you a chance to respond. And then I'm going to have the trustees speak one more time. And if there's another response, and then we'll move to what the next action points are. Okay. So I'm going to ask trustee Peterson for questions or comments next.
I agree with Scott Pierce that we need to work with you on this. I think I can't see us making a decision tonight, but I like everything you said. I think it's moving forward is courageous, and I think that these new ideas are exciting, but we really need to tread softly, very carefully. But just the children in the liquor, I think that that's easily fixed by just making a different time. You know, liquor sales can happen when children won't be there. If it's a children's movie, yeah, maybe no liquor, you know, while that movie's playing. But for the events, for dueling pianos, which I've been to, and it's wonderful, and I loved it. I think that events should have alcohol, and I think if we work together on this, we can come up with a plan. But it's exciting, and I don't want to see that theater close. I've been going there since I'm 5, long time. So I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it continue.
Thank you. Trustee Bluthart.
First on the liquor, I don't see that being a problem. I've gone to movies the last 10, 15 years where they've had liquors and I've never had any issues. I could be the lucky one, but I mean, pretty much probably a lot of parents want to bring their kids to a movie and they'd like to have a glass of wine while they're watching a Disney movie for the 6th time or something like that. But
Good point.
obviously there would need to be some precautions and things taken in place, but that part of it I would love to see. Everything else you're talking about sounds wonderful. My only issue, and I would just kind of what other trustees have talked about, is just getting a little bit more background, because basically we're becoming a bank, and you know, like you say, a bank's not going to give you a loan on this type of thing, but you're asking us to do that. Now, there's a lot of reasons why we should work with you to try to make sure that that theater stays open, because it's a great place. And I agree, we need to work on it with you and get the background and come to some type of situation that maybe we could all, you know, get behind and support. Personally, you know, when I see, you know, 400,000 and you want 375, maybe, you know, something that we could look at down the road is a little bit more, you know, maybe a little bit less on the loan, a little bit more of the, you know, what you're putting in or however that is. Stuff like that. But I mean, I think we definitely need to work with you. I'd love to see it happen and come to some form of an agreement, but definitely worth looking into.
And, well, so we.
Yeah. That's all.
All right, thank you, Trustee Bluthart. Trustee Berman.
I loved everything that you said. I think it brings, there's a lot to offer. It brings many different things that we don't have. I like that it's family oriented, community oriented. And, you know, you're willing to incorporate other local businesses, you know, in what you're doing. You know, I do feel that it's something that we need to approach with caution. As far as the alcohol, I have an 8-year-old son, and you know, if I was going there, my husband and I were going there with him, I personally would not have a problem with it, you know, being there with him. And you know, it's, you know, like it was mentioned, maybe if it's a children, well, even if it was a children's movie, it's just when the children that are being dropped off by themselves, that is a little concerning. So I think that would have to be looked into a little bit more. But that movie theater, it's a dying breed, and they're turning into the diamond in the rough, and something that was common, and now you don't see them very often. And I think that's sad because that's history. It's going away. So I love the theater. I have purchased a brick when you guys are doing that. I think, like I said, approach with caution, and we need to look a little bit further into this to make it work. So.
All right, thank you. Trustee Dominiac, please.
Yes, I don't have a whole lot more to add. I mean, first of all, thank you to Tim for all, rescuing the theater. I think all the ideas are terrific, but I would echo the comments made by many of my colleagues that we need a little bit more information. Your comment about the bank won't help. I'm wondering if a visit to the State Bank of the Lakes, which is obviously very focused on the community, might be one of your next steps to see whether or not that's a viable option, and maybe that'll help. My concern, and I shared this with Tim, is the amount. When Tim came to us, it was $200,000. Now you're asking for almost twice that, and I just don't feel comfortable, because that basically says to me that the village now owns that property. And yes, the building would be collateral, but we don't want to own that building. At least I don't think we do. But as far as, the alcohol and everything, I think we have to really think about that, because as you know, we just said no to somebody because we don't want gaming. So we'd have to come up with some kind of a license that would be specific for the theater that would keep us out of that realm. But, I just think we need to get more information, and I'd like to have you go and see Mr. Kinney at the bank and see what he has to say about a potential loan.
I'll give you a chance to respond to some of these questions or concerns. I'll go through the trustees one more time, and then I think I have an idea of where the next step on this would go. So,
Yeah. First. So on a couple issues, one, I'll do the bank aspect first. To everyone, and Mary, I did go to State Bank. I've banked with them forever. And they were the ones that very clearly said that it wouldn't be a loan that they would be interested in without a fresh and a couple of years of history to lend off of. So I didn't go to Mr. Kinney. I went to Bill Battistone, my personal banker there.
Okay.
And just a little bit of the under the skin of the movie theater business, and why the ticket tax is a much more robust way to facilitate this. The studios take on average about 60% of the gross as payment for their product. So when I first reopened, and for the entire normal run before COVID, it's $8 adult ticket, 75-cent tax. So the theater was getting 60% on average of $77.25 tax or ticket price. They were fine with that. They were happy with that. During COVID, I dropped everything flat across the board to $5. Studios didn't object to it at all. I think they're just happy to have people still in business and somebody showing their product. So if you raise the price $1, you're only getting 40 cents back to help service the debt, where the tax provides 100% of that dollar back to service. So it's a much more efficient way to have a secure source of repayment than $1 increase in price. So that's why I did it originally, and that's why it's even more important now. So hope that makes sense.
I have a couple questions that I just want to get clarification on. One is it your intent to keep I think it sounds like it's keep it either a hybrid or continue to be a movie theater for the foreseeable future as well?
Yes, with all of the ideas that I presented.
Okay, and then I guess this is for Tim, and maybe it was a different scenario than when the money was lent the first go around. Did the village, because I'd probably ask for this to happen, did the village put a lien on the building as security for that?
maybe Jim, and I'm sure they did.
Okay.
I know I provided a personal guarantee and personal financials, but I imagine there was a lien on the building. I don't remember. It's been so long ago. I
Okay.
don't think there was.
Could you charge more? Okay, well, I don't know what the maximum ticket tax is, so I don't know if there's a statute or,
There is no limit. Jim did the research. There is no limit.
could you charge more in a ticket tax for, say, a event, a comedian,
Mhm.
$2 to $5 versus the $1 on a theater? Is that
Yes.
something? Okay.
Absolutely. And there could be a lien on the building, which they didn't do for him, but we could do that because that's collateral
Okay.
for more than the amount of the loan.
All right, thank you. Those are my questions. Do you have anything? I'm going to go around the trustees one more time, and then I have a suggestion, but I'll ask Trustee Pierce if he has any more follow-up questions or concerns.
My only question is, and this is Mr. Downey, were you able to, with that dollar tax, pay off the original loan that you were given?
Well, I paid it off in 2016. That it was not retired by the tax at that point. I don't like that. And the theater was profitable and I had the resources, so I just paid it off a couple years later. Okay, but it was robust in servicing the debt at the time. It was fine.
Okay.
Trustee Masek.
Yeah, here's my question. If a bank won't do it, instead of giving him the money all up front, so Mr. Downey, what about venture capital? You keep the note and you take the dollar and you take the money and you double your money. So you take it as venture debt, or you find someone to take that venture debt. $1 a ticket, they're getting $2 on the dollar. Instead of the taxpayers taking the burden, and you get your $375,000 right today, someone picks it up as venture debt. There's people out there that'll take it as venture debt for the $1 ticket for financing. Those people are out there all day long that'll take it as venture debt.
I beg to differ.
Or that- Have you explored that avenue?
Not at any reasonable rate of return. The return that they would want on that, if the village finances it, I don't remember what the interest rate was when I did it, 2.5%, something like that. If you're going to outside independent financing sources, they're going to want a ridiculous rate of return on this, and it's just
they're
not going to be feasible.
they're going to want to double their money. So venture debt, they're going to want to double their money, but you want your money all up front, so then you can throw your money in the market and double your money by the time this is paid off by the taxpayers. So that's what I'm thinking. Venture debt. Basically, that's what the village is gonna end up financing this as a venture debt investment.
I don't think that's a realistic option. That's not a realistic option.
All right, thank you.
So,
Trustee Peterson.
I don't really have anything else to add, except for I just want to go forward with this and try and work this out.
Trustee Bluthart.
Nothing further at this time.
Trustee Berman.
Nothing further.
Trustee Dominion.
No, I just think we have to come up with a solution because we need to protect the theater, but we need to noodle it around some more.
All right, so I have a suggestion. All right, so between now and our next meeting, which is in 2 weeks, and the sooner you can gather this, the better. I would ask that you guys provide some general letter of intent or LOI between the parties. Provide, and not to the board, to the staff, to Michael and Jim, some financial projections or some financials to review, and then based on what we receive, then Michael and staff can decide if it goes back on the cow or on the board meeting for vote at the next meeting. But I think there's, like I said, I think obviously everyone wants to keep the needle moving here, and we can put that on the either cow or the board meeting in 2 weeks based on the recommendation of staff. Is that acceptable to you guys? I mean, obviously cow, there's no voting anyways. So we just have to, I think we're just all looking for just more information on the financial aspects of it. Is that consensus of the board? Is that okay with you?
Fine with me.
All right. So 2 weeks back here, same place, same time, either at this meeting or the board meeting or potentially both. So
What's the date?
the date is February 9th. Okay. So the faster you can get it to Michael, the better.
Thank
right.
you very much. for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thank you for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
All right, I gotta find my agenda here. All right, next item on the agenda is item number 4 on the cow, consideration and approval of an ordinance amending section 4-2C-4 of the municipal code of Antioch regarding the hours of business for establishments which sell alcohol. Chief Gutchow.
Yeah, so just to briefly recap with the board, where we've gone, where we arrived. This was initially presented with a request for a change to the Sunday night into Monday morning liquor hours from a currently established 3 a.m. to 2 a.m. We then explored potentially aligning all liquor hours within the village with the county. The board subsequently gave direction. They were not in support of that idea. So the hours have been realigned to the original proposal to allow no liquor sales between 2 a.m. and 7 a.m. on weekdays and between 3 a.m. and 7 a.m. on Saturdays and Sundays, with the alignment of the holidays to match what is allowed in Lake County unincorporated areas currently. The board also gave some direction that they wanted to see some expansion of the consumption for off-premises sales of liquor hours. You'll see in the proposed ordinance, those hours have been expanded to mirror the typical bar hours. So restricted sales between the 2 hours of 2 a.m. and 7 a.m. on weekdays and 3 a.m. and 7 a.m. on Saturdays and Sundays. There was a question that was received in regards to why the hours were not expanded for consumption off the premises as in holidays. That's simply just from an enforcement perspective, keep things a little bit easier on the officers and on the businesses themselves. There's always questions that arise with the some of the on-premise consumption locations, what holidays are permitted, what are not permitted. I think some of the smaller businesses will handle it. Even as some of the larger corporate businesses that we have, I think it would get a little bit confusing. That way we just kept it status, kind of a status quo throughout the course of the year with hours established on weekdays and weekends.
Thank you, Chief. Discussion, Trustee Pierce,
No questions, Your Honor.
Trustee Masek,
No, I'm gonna go with the recommendations of the chief.
Trustee Peterson,
No questions.
Trustee Bluthart.
Just one quick question, just is the way I'm reading it. When you say 2 a.m. to 7 a.m. on weekdays, Friday is considered the Saturday, right? So Friday would be 3 a.m. if I'm reading that right?
So that's what led into some of the confusion with the original ordinance. Everybody was of the impression that Sunday meant Sunday, but really when you think about it, a weekday ends at midnight on Friday.
Okay,
So the
that's what
weekend
I just
starts
wanted
on
to clarify.
Saturday, correct? So essentially, the most simplistic way of thinking about this is business days, Monday through Thursday, they will be closing at 2 o'clock. Friday nights, Saturday nights, they will be allowed to stay up until 3 a.m.
Would it make sense to list it like that instead of the way we have it? Or is it not, or is this clear enough? I mean, because to me, it was kind of a little hazy, so that's why we asked about it. I just didn't know if we needed to list it specifically, but.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry, Trustee, would it be helpful if we did bring this back for full board approval on February the 9th, if we submitted a memorandum to go along with this to provide further clarity as articulately stated by the police chief?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with it as everyone else is. I'm fine with the hours and everything else. I just want to make sure what days, that's where I was a little confused. So,
Memo for the business owners. Okay.
yeah, I mean, I just wanted to make sure
Sure.
because I think of a weekday as a Friday as a weekday. And then, so I was looking at it as bar would close at 2 or Saturday, so I just want to make sure everyone's on the same page.
Okay, understood.
Sure.
That's all I have.
Trustee Berman,
No questions or comments.
Trustee Dominiac,
At the last meeting, everybody said that they had thought a lot about this since the first meeting that we discussed this, where everybody said we should be aligned with the county. And, I listened to everybody's comments and I've been doing a lot of thinking about it as well. And I don't support us not lining up with the county. We're going to be talking about spending a lot of money to beautify Antioch, to build a new park. Comments were made that we need to do more about bringing people into Antioch. And I really am struggling to understand the rationale for making Antioch the place to go to when everybody else is closed. And I don't see any real reason for us to expand package sales. I just don't like the idea of people, that are out at 2 o'clock in the morning or 1 o'clock in the morning now going and buying more to drink. They're going to go to the gas station, the Shell station, and pick up a 6-pack or whatever they drink at 1 o'clock in the morning, go over to our beautiful new park. So I just don't think it aligns with our vision. And so I'm going to vote against this because I think that we should be aligned with the county as we initially spoke. And I don't think there's any reason to expand package sales.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion before I move this to the next board meeting? All right. Thank you. We will have this on the regular agenda for the February 9th meeting. Next item, item number 5 is Verizon request for a lease on Heron Harbor Water Tower. This is Trustee Administrator Keim.
Thank you, Your Honor. A little history. The village board passed a resolution to lease space on this water tower several years ago to Verizon. They never occupied the space. They didn't locate on the tower. I don't know why. They came back, it seems like more than a year ago, it's not like you deal with Verizon, you deal with a consultant that was working with Verizon. So I've dealt with many consultants, but this one seems to have pushed this about as far forward as it has been. They've provided engineered drawings. As you see in your packet, you can see the location of this would be cellular equipment. And you can see a profile of the tank. So it would be the typical installation where you'd see the antenna equipment placed on top, some wiring through the, through the support of the tower, and then this location outside of the tower. I thought it was appropriate to bring this back because so much time has passed since the village board first authorized the location here, and some things have changed. The lease area is different. They were on the previous resolution. It was a different location where the equipment would be on our site. So when that changed, I just thought it was appropriate to make sure that this board, and some of you may remember this and some of you won't, but I thought it was appropriate to bring it back and see if you're still interested to locate cellular. This would be Verizon cellular equipment. We have them on other towers. But this kind of is a new deal that you would have to authorize. And the way I see this, it's about $2,000 a month. It's just over $2,000 a month. We would have to pay some tax. Once we start generating revenue on a piece of property, our real estate tax exempt status goes away. Not that much money. You're still going to get about $2,000 a month.
All right. Thank you. And I will say, having Verizon and being in Heron Harbor quite a bit, you do not get service there. So I will let the board discuss. Trustee Pierce.
Where was the original site?
It was closer to the well house. So it was east and maybe a little bit north. So what staff had asked them to do is, if you're going to locate, go into the very southwestern corner of our property to try to, push them in the corner to make room for any expansion we would need to do. If we had to do something if we had to do treatment there, expand the building, dig a new well, do something there, I'd want them out as far out of the way as possible.
Okay.
Trustee Basic.
That tower is probably so important to Heron Harbor because anybody that's got a Verizon phone complains Verizon does not work in Heron Harbor. So any competition, because they're gonna turn on their 5G, any competition we can give Comcast is a good thing. That they can get they get rid of their Comcast for streaming for 5G. So this has become a life safety issue. If their phone doesn't work and they gotta call 911, that's a problem. So Heron Harbor basically is a dead spot if you have Verizon. So that's high enough that's gonna pick up anybody that's got Verizon knows it doesn't work. So that tower for Verizon is needed desperately for public safety to dial 911. So the money that we're gonna get to the village, they don't pay like they used to. So yeah, that's a great idea. We have to, for public safety, for 911, we have to have the best carrier service we can give it in the village and start figuring out how we can put a dent in Comcast, get the 5G service for the home house, to put a little dent, maybe get the Comcast prices down, and maybe people start switching to the 5G service for streaming. I don't know, but for a public safety issue, we have to have that tower up because Verizon just doesn't work.
Thank you, Trustee Peterson.
Jim, are you comfortable with where they're putting it on the tower?
It's about the only, the only other installation method would be to put it around the neck under the base, and that makes it more difficult to coat the tower. So
Okay.
I would make them put an escrow account in place and have this inspected properly. The coating is the most important thing to me. Is we can't compromise that because it's very expensive to paint these, as you are well aware. So when they weld things, we got to make sure that they do it properly. So I've asked them for a $15,000 escrow if they are to proceed, if the board is interested in this, just to make sure that that installation is proper.
Well, I think it's a good idea. It's going to help the community. It's going to give us $2,000 a month. I think it's a good idea. I'm board.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Trustee Bluthart.
No comments, no objection.
Trustee Berman.
I do have a question for you. In regards to the 5G, the other towers that we have with that on there, is that right now, is that 5G?
I don't know. I know that it's very common for the carriers to come in and swap out equipment. Our leases allow for them to come in and swap out equipment. And I can tell you, all of our installations have swapped equipment recently. And I don't know, I will find that answer out if I can.
Okay.
I'm assuming that, last year when they replaced equipment here on the Orchard Tower near the fire department, and when they went out to one of our other towers, I'm assuming they did. Verizon's on our tower on Anita. So this is the second location in the village, and they were recently there, and I'm assuming they are going to 5G. But I'll see if I can find it out.
That 5G kicks on my phone.
It might, yeah, mine does it it's goes back and forth. And then as far as when we are, I don't know a ton about this whole thing, but I will say that I am concerned about radiation with the 5G. I don't know. I've looked into it a bit, but it was enough to draw some concerns. Is there any way that we would be able maybe to do maybe a study to see like the EMF, what that is?
I will go back to the person I'm dealing with and ask for them to do that. Provide, I don't know what EMF stands for. Is that electro something?
Yeah.
Magnetic fields?
Yeah.
Magnetic field. I'll ask, I think they really want to be here. So I think it's a fair question. Let's have them provide the information.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you, Trustee Dominiac.
I have no comments.
All right. So I think that we should probably move this to the next board meeting with some of the follow-up answers from the Verizon to.
Well, just
There-
one
Yeah, more
comment.
comments? Trustee Mason.
Just one comment, the tower at the fire station, T-Mobile is 5G.
Okay. Yeah, so.
It's already up and active. That's been up and active 5G for a good year at the fire department. They just run on a different frequency than Verizon.
Well, we will bring this back February 9th on the regular meeting.
If I'm able to get the answer and they are able to provide information
Mhm.
about the EMF, I'll put it back on. If they are not able to get us that information in that time frame, we'll just push this maybe to the next one.
Sure.
Or whenever they can get us that information.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. Don't go anywhere. Next one is number 6, discussion regarding capital projects. Administrator Keim.
So I've been working a lot on capital, been looking at our cash situation and what resources we have. So I'd hope to have more information for you tonight. I'm just not there yet. What I can tell you is I think our CIP, our capital improvement plan, needs to be completely reworked. And that's what I'm in the process of doing. And as soon as I can get you a summary sheet of what that's going to look like, I will do that. It's fair to say we're going to have more projects than money to do them. It's a lot of this is a moving target. You know, I'm largely going to be relying on cash available, grant money, and then the sale of a bond to support most of your capital. And I did learn that, you know, one of the grants we applied for was denied. The brownfield grant across the street here was denied. So I had to take that out of the formula. So there's some moving pieces here, very recent stuff. And you're about to get some more information to complete this from Lakota. I think Lakota is finishing up their deliverable on the downtown beautification. So I think you're hopefully on the 9th. That's what I've asked them to do, is come back and present everything. So you have a full picture of what they've come up with and some costs. And hopefully I'll be in a better position to present, you know, a better picture for you of what are our capital needs, how are we going to fund it, you know, and what's on that list. I will tell you there were a lot of projects in our capital plan that had no funding source. They weren't defined. Nobody was working on them. You know, I'm kind of paring down the capital plan to something that's actionable. You know, let's figure out how much money we have to work with, and let's identify projects that have a chance to be funded, and you know, let's do those. Let's execute a plan. That was my main, I think, problem with the capital as it was. What I would like you to do, I've identified some projects we've talked about recently for you on a piece of paper, but I think I also sent you an attachment to a message today. If you would just do me a favor and stack rank them here, just put numbers in the boxes, or give me an idea. I'd like to know from the board, you know, if we can't fund all of these right away, which one should go first? Because you know, that does matter when I put together capital planning, is I have to match cash flow to these projects. So if you'd be so kind, you don't have to do it tonight, but you know, rank these for us. We'll tabulate it and we'll report back to you on what the board thinks should be the priority here.
Thank you, Jim. And I will say that I had the opportunity to sit down with Jim about this a day or two ago, and the amount of work that has gone into the thought process on putting these numbers together in 2 weeks has been a lot of work, including different sources of revenue and where they would come from. So I just don't want anyone on the board to think that nothing has been done since 2 weeks ago. There has been a lot of work done on this in this direction. So with that, I will let the board ask questions. Trustee Pierce?
No question.
Trustee Masek?
I have no, I just, the brownfield, when did we get notice that was denied?
I believe it was late last week.
So we had that bank that we were getting at, then all of a sudden now that's denied. So now we got to start over with the whole planning of it?
I don't think we have to start over. It was, potentially, part of the funding cocktail we're gonna use, and now that funding cocktail needs to change. Whatever remedial work needs to happen now, will, could potentially be, I know it can qualify under the grant. It all, the cost of the project is whatever it is. Let's say it is $10 million. We're gonna have to come up with 10 million to do all of it, from the remedial work and the environmental to the opening of the creek and everything else. So it just means that the $400,000 or $500,000 that we were trying to get out of the US EPA will have to come from another source.
And I get all that, but this is $3 million more than a public works building.
And I don't know the cost. You don't pay too much attention to the cost. I don't think, I'm guessing at a lot of these costs.
I know, that's why we need the roadmap. In all due respect, we need the roadmap to where we started to where we're gonna go, because this is, for someone just looking in saying, okay, it's a couple trees, it's a couple paver blocks, we're gonna open a creek, that's $10 million. It's hard to sell to someone looking in saying it's a field. You're gonna plant some trees, open a creek, put some paver blocks down. How is that $3 million more than a public works facility? So we need some type of roadmap. We need the roadmap to where we're going. I can't approve anything that's a blank check that's $3 million more than a huge public works building. Public works is important. We've got a lot of infrastructure that's important. So we've got to, gosh darn it, we've got to have a roadmap to where we're going. We got to have some numbers on paper. We just can't sit there and say, oh, geez, we had this plan together. They don't want to give us the money. So we're just going to find out we can't keep our doctor like Obama. So Jim, we got to get a roadmap to where we're going. I just can't sell this to constituents, say this is $3 million in a big building with 4 walls, doors, heating, air, and whatnot, offices. It's a hard sell to the constituents.
Thank you. Trustee Peterson.
I have a question, Jim. I don't really know about the Crest Sanitary Sewer.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe I should run through that list and tell you about these projects a little bit so you understand them. So,
I think the ones that would need discussion is the remediation. Obviously, we know the bike path. I think the remediation, the sanitary sewer, and then the parking lot, I think we may know, but need some clarification.
okay, yeah, I'll run through it real quick. Grimm Road, we're reconstructing Grimm and realigning Grimm, and that's going to be a complete street with it's going to be lit, curbed, 3-lane, pedestrian facilities, utilities. And we're well into engineering that project. The roadway portion, the transportation part is 80 or 90% engineered, and the utility work is the utility engineering you just authorized. Work is to begin. I know I'm not supposed to call it the Pittman property, but it's the property across the street for our park. That you have a concept, and it's time to do design development, where we authorize a Strand contract, but we pump the brakes a little bit on the Lakota contract. The Village Hall would be a renovation project that I don't have a lot of information of what that looks like at this point. A public works facility, there hasn't been any design development done on that. It's very conceptual at this point. It would go I would say it would go hand in hand with Grimm Road if we locate it there. So if we wanted to, locate a public works facility off of Grimm Road obviously has to come first. Well, 5, fairly recent issue. We noticed up the public that we had a slightly high iron content excursion. And we have to endeavor to, figure out what we're going to do with well 5. We certainly don't want to produce water that's going to produce excursions from our limits and require us to notice our public. We haven't done much work on what's going to happen there. It's in my mind either iron filtration installed at the well site, or it's abandoning the well and digging a new well somewhere else in a place that has less iron. We need to study those alternatives and figure out what's best. For now, that well is, just for everybody's benefit, that well is in emergency mode only. So it is not running to supply fresh water to the system. It would only run if we were having a problem supplying fresh water to the system with other wells. Another conceptual project, Route 59 bike path. This would be a way to connect a bike path on Route 59 to those neighborhoods on 59 to hopefully get them into town or close to town with a pedestrian facility. We put this on a list and we were selected and listed in the capital bill at $600,000. That money, I'm told, will show up at some point to do that project. But the state has not notified us as to when. I think we will get the money, but I don't know when. Crest, also $600,000. That project's fully designed. This was to alleviate overflow flooding in our sanitary system. As we get closer to the plant, and certainly Crest is close to the plant, where force mains and gravity sewers join, we need to upsize the sanitary sewer pipe so that it can, effectively carry the water into the plant without bubbling out of the manholes and onto the street. And that was happening. So we designed a project. I will tell you, doesn't happen very often. It's not like we're not having a regular issue with this, but
there an IEPA complaint filed and a directive to fix it?
we are not under a consent decree at this time. If it became a bigger problem, it's a possibility, but we are not under a consent decree from the IEPA to do this project. We were ready to go with it, and then we got listed in the capital bill from the state of Illinois to fund the project. So we could go ahead with the project, but if the grant money shows up a year later, I think we'd be kicking ourselves and saying, why didn't we wait a year? So right now we're just waiting to see when that money comes through. But that project is probably, it may need a little tweak here and there, but it's pretty much ready to bid. And then we talked about we have a police station without a parking lot. So we rely on the Methodist Church to park both employee and our fleet vehicles. It's unsecured, puts us in an arrangement where we have to cover, the entire cost of maintaining and replacing and striping and plowing that entire asphalt surface behind the church and both their entrances. It's a pretty big task. We're at the end of the agreed term, and we purchased that little blue house and knocked it down next to the police station with the intent of providing the police department with a proper parking lot. It would be a secured lot. I'm estimating about 400 on that. We're just starting to do that work, but that's pretty important, I know, to the police department to have a secured parking lot. And also it would enable us to get away from our obligations on the Methodist Church. There are many other projects, but these seems to be the big ones, the main ones that we've been talking about recently.
All right. Thank you. Any other comments? All right.
I got one. Are we
Yeah,
gonna
go ahead. Go ahead.
are we gonna make comments to his list, his wish list, or are we gonna email him in?
The ranking.
Well, yeah, because if we want to make public comments, because water, that's important. our public safety to our officers, that's important. That's important, you know, when they go out to their cars that they can drive home safe. That's important. We owe it to our officers to make sure their vehicles are secured. We don't even have signs. We don't even have signs out there. We can't even spend $50 for signs that says that limits people from walking on there. These First Amendment auditors with their cameras that sit there and can tag a car and follow them home. I mean, gosh darn it. These officers deserve the privacy from having their vehicle followed. So that's important. Water is important. Crestview is overdue. You know, water should be priority. You know, kids should not be drinking all that, you know, iron, you know, come on. These, you know, kids are important. You know, the health and safety, that's important. Health and safety to our officers are important. Those are two priorities, two big priorities. We talk about this stuff, but nothing ever happens. We can't even spend the money for $50 signs to let the officers sit there and say, hey, this, you can't be out here.
Yeah, well, I think this item is not, this is going to be an item that I believe is going to be talked about at several COW meetings in more detail with the numbers. I would then just ask that, you know, Jim come back in 2 weeks with a kind of a summation of the ranking of, you know, where this came in, and then we can start putting some real pen to paper on numbers and give a better presentation to the board in that regard. So yeah, I appreciate those comments and I agree. And then we'll be back discussing this in 2 weeks and probably beyond. So thank you. Any other business for the COW meeting? Any other business that any trustees or anyone wants to raise? All right, thank you. If not, I would entertain a motion for adjournment of the COW meeting.
So moved. So moved.
Motion by trustee Bluthart, second by trustee Pierce. Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominiac.
Yes.
6 voting yes, 0 voting no. Motion carries. Meeting's adjourned. We will reconvene in 5 minutes, approximately 8:18. Yes. Yeah.
I feel hopeless.
Yeah.
I look better. I
It's like,
can.
all right.
Done anything for like a month or two.
I call the meeting to order at 8:23. This is the regular board meeting. Roll call, please.
Trustee Pierce,
Present.
trustee Mason,
Here.
trustee Peterson,
Here.
trustee Bluthart,
Here.
trustee Berman,
Here.
trustee Dominiac,
Here.
Mayor Gardner.
Present. 2 of the trustees are attending via Zoom. Next, first item is the mayoral report. One of the items in the packet is consideration and approval of an ordinance amending section 1-5-10 of the municipal code of Antioch regarding the deputy local liquor control commissioner, ordinance number 22-0104 for consideration. This was something that I asked the village attorney to look into for me. He can discuss this more, but one of the reasons that this is important for me in particular is given my profession and having represented many of the bars and restaurants in Antioch, there's going to be inherent conflict in most of, if any, or if not all of any hearings that come before the liquor commission. So it looks like this is something that's already has been in our code, but just needed to be cleaned up. So I'll let the attorney discuss that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as the mayor stated, this was very similar to the existing code, which would, if this passage, be the prior code that allowed for and called for the office of the Assistant Local Liquor Control Commissioner. There are some changes to it, and it's basically, if you look through the changes, it fleshes out a little bit more of what the duties are, including specific language. It says that the Deputy Local Control Commissioner is allowed to act on behalf of and at the request of the commissioner in the absence of the commissioner, and empowered to do the same. Again, a lot of this was in the code before. Some changes to the code are spelling out that all hearings regarding licenses and related matters will be held at Village Hall, open to the public, and in accordance with rules established by the Village Code or other provisions of law. Also, it allows for the compensation of the Deputy Local Liquor Commissioner, and this is standard in many different communities. There is compensation paid to the Deputy Local Liquor Commissioner. That amount is to be set by you, the corporate authorities of the village, through ordinance or resolution. This is standard and it tracks different Deputy Control Commissioner legislation and village code provisions or city council provisions throughout the state of Illinois. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Thank you. Trustee Pierce.
Yeah, I think there needs to be some cleanup on the ordinances as presented. I know you did some line outs, but you lined out a lot of the word assistant, but you missed it in some of the whereases. Down in the actual ordinance part, you lined out assistant and changed to deputy, but if you look at the whereases,
We can change that, and even if the motion, trustee, if you'd like to, we can change and clean up assistant to a call for deputy in all of the preambles or the whereas clauses.
Okay, all right. And then in section 1-5-10, where it defines a deputy local liquor control commissioner, section A is about the conditions of the office. Should there be a point in there where this says the deputy local liquor control commissioner shall act until a new appointment is made by the mayor? Where in the village code does it say that the mayor appoints the deputy liquor commissioner?
It is an office, so under the state of Illinois law and the municipal code, all appointments are made to the mayor, and all appointments are similarly provided for and perfected through the advice and consent of the corporate authorities, you, the Board of Trustees.
Okay.
We could, if you want to put that in there with the advice and consent of the board, that's the state law. Any offices like that, so just law in Illinois that office has advice and consent of the board.
Okay.
And I apologize about the assistant in the preambles. There are different drafts of this going on.
Yeah, I know.
So thank you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Trustee Masek.
The only language I'd like to see added is that it would be consistent to a board member. And I would prefer it to be a senior trustee. I think the senior trustee should be honored with that role, deserve that role. So I would look to see that it's a board member and it would be a senior trustee.
Yep. And Trustee Masek, so you know, that was my initial preference and discussions. And I will, and I raised that to the attorney, and I'll let him speak to that with his research and response to me.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and trustee. They're both excellent points. I did research that position and we found a provisional law that says any elected official cannot hold a second license. So to avoid any conflict in that, we have made a determination in our law that our advice would be that it would not be another a trustee, for example. There is some exemptions to that relative to first responders. There is no exemption for that at any other offices. This would be one of those other offices.
But I would also like to flesh that out still further. I would like I said, with council. Like I said, that was my initial preference, that it would be a senior trustee. And, we discussed it, but that is something I still would like to flesh out with this position as well.
If the trustee Masek doesn't mind, how can the mayor then hold the mayoral position and the commissioner?
Great question. That's the same one I asked.
Again, another tremendous question by the corporate authorities. It's by statute. So the statute specifies that the mayor is the local control commissioner. It says that it has to be that way. We are creatures of statute. We are non-home rule units of government. This is the way that it has to be. Just like in the other way, that it can't be a dual office holder for this for one of the trustees.
Trustee Peterson.
I don't have any questions right now.
Trustee Bluthart.
No questions at this time.
Trustee Berman.
No questions at this time.
Trustee Dominiac.
Question on C, hearings, all hearings regarding licenses, et cetera, shall be open to the public. How is that made available to the public that there's going to be a hearing?
There are procedures. Excellent question, trustee. It is made available. It is posted in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. So there would be an agenda item posted to ensure compliance in that way. And relative to those interested parties involved, they would receive direct notice under law.
So when you're talking about a hearing, you're talking about someone has a problem with their license or et cetera. I've been a trustee for how long? I've never heard about, there's never been a posting about a hearing.
Hasn't been in here.
That may be factually because you haven't had any, and I can look into it to see if there was to ensure Open Meetings Act compliance.
Okay, thank you. No other question.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, so when we do make this motion to approve, assuming that does come through, in addition to waiving the second reading, I would ask that language be in the motion to change all references to the assistant, to the deputy, and I do apologize for that error in the, as I see it, the third recital and the fourth recital in the ordinance.
And I'd like to add, if it's not clear in the ordinance, but only in the statute, that the trustees of the corporate authority, it's like, you know, with their approval as well.
We will add language under section, under A, that says until a new appointment and something is made by the mayor and something to the effect of, and with the advice and consent of the Board of Trustees.
Right here.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this matter?
Yes.
Yep, trustee Masek.
So this would be to the attorney. So that's the statute you're reading, that a trustee cannot hold dual offices. You will send that to the trustees, that a senior board member can't hold the dual position. You'll send that statute to all the trustees.
You'll receive it before the next board meeting, trustee, if that's okay?
Yeah, just to prevent, so when we do make, you know, this is like a Supreme Court decision that we don't have, you know, I don't want to say, so we come into agreement who this person is, so we don't have, you know, someone that's favorable to the bars in that position.
No,
Or
understood.
More of a trustee that's looking out for the village.
Could it be a staff person?
Yeah, I mean, it could be a staff person. I work in different municipalities where it is a staff person.
Okay.
Thank you.
And that depends, I mean.
Yeah, of course.
All right, relative to the staff person, it is, you know,
Could it be a police chief?
well, you know, that's an interesting question, because then you would have possibly the person who brings the actual charge sitting to hear the actual charge in the way an adjudicator. You would never have the police chief be the judge in a trial, right? That would seem a ridiculous postulate. It's a good question, that could it be the police chief, but you would never have a police chief also sit as a judge, right? Because you'd say you brought.
I understand that. We just want to protect.
Yeah.
We just want to protect the corporate authority, that we
Correct.
got everything, you know, up and up to the constituents. We just want
Understood, trustee. No, it's a good question.
Sure we're doing good government.
The police chief is a logical step to say this is a good, responsible person. We are lucky to have a good police chief. But to investigate the crime and then adjudicate the crime would not be something that I would find, I would probably have a lawsuit on our hands, to be honest with you.
Right. So if you,
we'll give you the staff. I'm sure we'll come up with a good proposition, and I'm sure that amongst yourselves, with the leadership of our mayor, we will have a good qualified candidate ready for you when we do make this appointment.
so you'll send us the statute that says a trustee cannot be A senior
Yes,
trustee.
and I
cannot-
want to be clear, it says an elected official cannot hold a second office. It doesn't necessarily say the senior trustee.
Right, the
won't-
elected official, right? That's the
Yeah.
word I'm looking for, so we can all see that in black and white.
Absolutely. And there are some exemptions for first responders. This is clearly not a first responder position.
Right.
So,
Your Honor?
yes, trustee Dominiac.
I have another question, and maybe it's splitting hairs, but we do have an ordinance that says no elected official can be an employee of the village. Would this be considered an employee of the village?
No, there's a very, can I respond to that?
Wait, this is
Sorry.
your show, right?
Thank
now.
you. I will gladly make it not my show. No, employees and officers are two separate entities under the laws, the municipal laws of the state of Illinois. An officer is appointed with the advice and consent of the board. An employee is a person who is hired through the administration. Think of it as a legislative function versus an executive function. The
you.
officers, and I am an officer, for example, have different powers and authorities in the state of Illinois. An employee is just like that. An employee is similar to any employee in a private corporation. So it is splitting hairs. And as a lawyer, we specialize in splitting hairs and counting the number of angels that dance on a pin. So it's almost a distinction without a difference, but there is a difference here. I hope that helps, trustee.
Thank you for the clarity.
Let's make him earn his retainer. Okay, any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, so if not, I'd entertain either a motion accepting the first reading or a motion waiving the second reading, whatever the trustees desire.
I make a motion just for the first reading.
Do I have a second?
First reading, so we get clarity of the statute of the law, so we all have time to read that.
We have a motion.
I'll second that.
We have a motion, trustee Masek, a second, trustee Peterson. Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominiac,
Yes,
6 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Thank you. Next is citizens wishing to address the board. They all may be asleep by now, but anyone raise their hand on Zoom? All right. We have the consent agenda. We have 3 items on the consent agenda. Is there any request from the trustees to remove any of these items from the consent agenda? All right. If not, I would entertain a motion and a second.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion trustee Peterson, second trustee Pierce. Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominiac,
yes,
6 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. On to regular business. First is consideration and approval of payments of accounts payable as prepared by staff in the amount of $287,552.42.
Well, that was good.
Make a motion to approve?
Motion trustee Peterson,
Second.
second
Ed.
trustee Masek. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominiac,
yes,
6 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. On to regular business. First is consideration and approval of payments of accounts payable as prepared by staff in the amount of $287,552.42.
Well, that was good.
Make a motion to approve?
Motion trustee Peterson,
Second.
second
Ed.
trustee Masek. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominiac,
yes,
6 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Next is item number 5, consideration and approval of a resolution authorizing the village administrator to execute an agreement with the Lakota Group for professional design services in the amount of $298,320. Resolution number 22-05. This is Administrator Keim, and I believe we have Kevin Clark from Lakota available on Zoom. Is that
move to
correct?
approve,
Second.
move to approve,
Motion trustee Dominiac, second trustee Pierce. Yep. All right, discussion. I know we had this presentation last meeting and we're back, so I would allow the trustees to raise any questions or, I know Mr. Clark is available to answer any questions regarding the proposals, and I appreciate the additional information that was sent last time. So Trustee Pierce, do you have questions, concerns about this item?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
All right. Trustee Masek.
Well, I got the usual question. We gave him $60,000. We'll give him another 298,000. What did they do with the first $60,000? What was that used for? What did they do with that money?
All right. Mr. Clark, would you like to respond to that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Trustee Masek. The $60,000 project was the downtown beautification plan. That's where we went through the process to engage the community and looking at the broader community, looking at all of the downtown streetscapes, including the vacant property, the vacant parcel across the street, the parking areas, all of the main streets, Lake, Skidmore, the areas behind the buildings. We developed concepts for those, a number of different concepts for the vacant parcel. We held multiple community engagement events to get feedback on those after we talked to folks, after we had discussions, stakeholder interviews, just to get a feel for what people really wanted to see, because when we got into the project, we didn't know. So once we got those ideas, we drew the concepts in a number of different ways and engaged people to give us their feedback. And we put together a draft report that outlines the concepts, the results, imagery, and we helped Mr. Kine put together some budget numbers to go towards those projects so that we kind of understand the level of effort. And those are budget numbers, of course. Certainly, as we get into the next piece of this, I keep hearing people say, well, we need a roadmap. Part of that process really is to determine and design options so that we know better costs. And if somebody tells me, hey, this is our budget for this project, for this parcel, for this vacant parcel, we work toward that. And my job is to say, here's some options for what that means. Right now, we have everything in there. Right now, people tell me they want water features, playgrounds, there's a building, there's a pavilion, there's creek walks, an amphitheater, pavers. So everything's in there. But when we get into this process, we decide, well, do we really need this many pavers? Do we really need the parallel or the new parking? Maybe the playground's smaller. Maybe the water feature isn't what a splash pad feature. Maybe it's more of a visual thing. So that's where we get into the options to go through the process. And I hope that helps address and clarify that, Trustee Masek.
So to get to your comment, you're kind of the architect to what this is going, because I'm still stuck on the $10 million price tag. So you're the architect of planning what this is going to be.
Yes, sir. We will be the designers of it. We're landscape architects. We'll work with the civil engineers and other engineers to make sure we're addressing all of the concerns, all of the functions of the site. If we're going to have a creek walk, we understand that if we're going to daylight a creek that's been in a pipe for a long time, there are a lot of considerations, technical considerations that we need to understand. We will be thinking about how we engage the water that has now been daylighted, and thinking about aesthetics and functionality and maintenance and all of those things as we go through the process. And we'll be bringing those things back to a committee that will help us make decisions and be fiscally responsible with the decisions and say, okay, we don't really want to make that investment in that, but let's do this instead. We think concrete's a better solution, or there will be options with that. So yes, sir, we're the designers of the plan, coming back to you guys, of course.
Okay. If we were to say yes to this figure, is there another check that would be written to you at a later date?
No, this is a process that takes you through bidding the project. So we would end up doing this goes through construction documents. So what that means is it'll be submitted for a number of permits, because there are a lot of other agencies we have to address in doing this. going through all of that, going through construction documents, getting submitted for a contractor to build it. The only thing that would be beyond that is if you guys want us to come out there and do construction observation during the construction, which isn't that uncommon. We do this all over and all the time. So this is to get you to that point where you actually have a real project.
Okay, so theoretically, this would be the last, unless we came back and said, no, we need more, this would be the last bill we get from Lakota.
Yes, sir. And it only gets billed along the way. It's only what we put into it as we go along and the level of effort that we put in. And it is a lot of work to go through and design this. And we're committed to doing that because we see the value in it. And we think this would be a great addition to.
And the only reason I'm bringing it up, because everybody's probably got shell shocked this month with their electric and gas bill doubling.
Yes,
So,
sir.
so fiscal responsibility, you know, everybody's fixed income. We got a senior population, and for one thing, we don't want, you know, taxes to go up. That's the last thing we want. We got to be fiscal responsibility. So that's why I'm so stuck on this $10 million price tag. Is we just had a library, brick and mortar, and this is an open field, $10 million, and we got to do a public works facility. We may have to do a new well if that well is coming out bad, and we got to dig a new well for the water source. It's just, you know, money's going out the door, and I just want to make sure that I can sit there and say, no, I'm sorry, person on the fixed income, we're not raising your property taxes. That's my concern. Because we're in an inflation environment right now, and I don't want to be the one to raise someone's property taxes.
Yes, sir. And we will, as part of it as we go through, and if somebody says our budget is X, then we will find a way to get you the best public space for that X, for that dollar amount.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Peterson.
I actually know what you did with that first check we gave you. I was on the street, on Main Street, the day that you were out there standing there with all the people from Antioch, asking them what they wanted and what their wishes and dreams were. And it was great. I was able to talk to so many people, and you gave a great roadmap. I'll call it a roadmap of what you were planning to do to the Pittman property, and everyone who was there. Michael was there. It was a great day, and so many people came up and expressed what they wanted to see in the Pittman property. So I know that was part of that first monies that we gave to you. And I appreciate the fact that you came back tonight and gave us another financial roadmap of what this money is going to be spent on. And I appreciate that. I asked for it last meeting and I appreciate it. So I'm happy to go forward tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Bluthart.
No comments.
Trustee Berman.
No comment.
Trustee Dominiac.
I have no comments. Let's go.
All right.
Let's go. Let's get
All
this
right.
done.
Any other discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominiac,
Yes.
6 voting yes, 0 voting no. Motion carries. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is item number 6, consideration and approval of a business incentive grant for Command Service Center for property commonly known as 315 North Depot Street. Resolution number 22-10. We have Mr. Garrigan to present, and I don't know if the petitioner is on Zoom or not. Do we have a Steve Milliken online? We do. Okay, petitioner's online.
Yes, thank you,
Thank
Your
you.
Honor.
Yes,
This matter is
I'm here.
coming back before village board consideration. As you recall, we discussed this matter for 315 North Depot Street, a request for a business incentive grant. There was some support by a number of commissioners I won't spend a lot of time going through the staff report because I did kind of provide a highlight at the last meeting. Staff initially did not score this, but based on your request, we did provide a score based on some of the village board's trustees' input. So I'm really looking for board direction. There is an affirmative motion just for format purposes. The applicant's actually here this evening. I think there was some question about some disagreement about visibility. The applicant did provide a traffic count on Depot Street in Orchard. So that's incorporated in your staff report. Approximately 1,200 vehicles drive by this site every day. So there is some visibility from Depot. I think staff had some concerns about visibility from Main Street, but if we have concerns about the future plans for the development on Depot Street, there is clearly visibility. There was some discussion about what is the long-term viability for the site regards to redevelopment opportunities. Obviously, we just discussed our long-term plans for a village-owned park at Depot Street and Orchard. I think it's quite reasonable to ask what are the opportunities for redevelopment of the site. But with that, staff did specifically go through the findings of facts. We did articulate some of our same concerns we had at the previous meeting, but we did provide a score just based on some of the input of some of the trustees who made it quite clear that they thought this was a good proposal. So with that, I'll conclude my staff report and be more than happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Trustee Pierce.
We're sitting here talking about the future of our area, especially the soon to be downtown Central Park area. And we look right across the street and we got Command Center, which has done a good job of sprucing up their main building. But you look a little bit further and they've got this old kind of beaten up ramshackle building that everybody's going to see from the park. And we also, somebody brought up the fact that, oh, there's a redevelopment plan for this. There's like 400 redevelopment plans for that area. And I've seen them come and go over the years. And one of them included selling all that property and having all the buildings there condemned and putting in new buildings and taking the school and turning that into condos. There's been all sorts of plans. But those plans evolve around what the property owner themselves want to do. And who am I to say, I'm not going to let you improve your property or do anything because I want to maybe take some plan that's on a shelf somewhere for the last 15 years and finally put it in place. So I think we need to let the property owners do what they want to do. And I think this is a spot where there's going to be high visibility. And we can either choose to help the property owner make it a better looking spot, or we cannot and live with the consequences of that. I mean, I would like to personally see them improve that, and maybe even because they've got a big expanse along it, put some sort of mural on there that celebrates Antioch or something to make it something nicer than what they're even planning to do now. So I would support this at this time.
All right, thank you, Trustee Mason.
All right. First of all, this building desperately needs something. Okay. Mr. Garrigan, I appreciate you putting the pictures in, doing a better presentation. The only thing I question, which I'm still going to question, is the scoring, because you gave this visibility. Would you give this a 4? If I look for visibility, where is it? What'd you give the visibilities?
Well, again, this is based on the input from the village board members. This was, so I think based on my interpretation.
Hold on.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Let me get my thought process. So there's another building you gave a 1 that's right in downtown Main, right on downtown Lake Street. You gave it a 1. So this building desperately needs it. So did the Chase building. So I'm questioning the scoring. I think that scoring needs to come back to the board, and it needs to have some explanation. Because that Chase building, we can all agree, is a gosh darn improvement. Now, I'm gonna vote yes on this because it's gonna be right next to a beautiful park. But gosh darn it, we've got people that come to the board that, and the can of worms that people come to the board and want to, well, they were denied, and we're gonna have other people that were denied come to the board. Well, we got people that start on their building and then come to the board and sit in the meetings and stare us down, and the building's already started construction, I'm talking about right next to the pet store. And then we've got to sit there and stare the guy down in the face, and we got to stare him down in the face to sit there and say, because he puts money back in the town, which I don't know if it's his money or corporate money that he puts back in the town, but that project was already started and that was scored higher. So I just don't get the scoring. The scoring confuses me. So I think the scoring is kind of biased because we got a Lake Street building that's a beautiful building now, and you scored it a 1.
Right.
So
Right.
I hope if Mr. Bellucci, I'm gonna put the name, comes back, we all look at that as a reconsideration, because that was just missed.
Yeah, and then I did talk to him, so yeah, I know,
That was just missed.
I did talk
And when
to,
someone comes there and already starts construction, and we sit there and said, oh, well, you started construction, we'll approve
I
that.
had-
That's 100% wrong. And
Yeah.
I don't like being interrupted when I get the floor. So
well, I want to stay on topic with this.
I'm staying on topic.
I understand. I know we've heard about.
So
it.
I would like at some meeting to understand the scoring, because there's other trustees that don't understand the scoring. And I think the scoring, no one understands the scoring, because the scoring is a personal scoring by Mr. Garrigan. So, I've talked to other trustees, which I'm not gonna place names, that we don't understand the scoring, how that building could be a 1, and this scoring for his visibility is a 4.
Okay, well, I will make sure and that we put on the Cal meeting to evaluate the not only the facade program and the parameters for that, but the scoring as well in the very near future. That is on my radar for that.
And maybe it's me. I don't read the New York Times, right, Mike?
Well, next one is all right, yeah, let's not make personal attacks on this. Next is
That was an attack that he made on me, so it's coming back at him.
well, this is yeah. I missed, yeah, Trustee Peterson.
Your Honor, I'd like that put in the record so we can discuss it later.
What,
The personal attack on an employee by a village trustee.
Was not an attack on
All
him.
right, we're gonna get back to order here. We're gonna
I
move
just
along
don't
to Trustee
understand the
Peterson.
scoring.
We're gonna talk to Trustee Peterson, get her feedback, and move this along.
I would like to see this property. Yeah, I don't even know what to say anymore. Yes, I approve of this, and I'm going to give an affirmative vote.
All right,
Period.
Trustee Bluthart.
A couple points. I agree with Trustee Masek and some other comments. I think we do need to look at the scoring for us, especially for our new trustees, and get some history on that. And that's something we could fine tune as we go forward. In regards to this project, I am also a yes vote, and for one primary reason, which is I talked to the owner, Mr. Milliken, and I didn't see it in your report, Mike, but he had offered, or when I spoke to him, he talked about willing to do a mural or a ghost signage on the building. Did he submit that to you, or was?
Yes,
or
he did.
If Steve's on, if you want to address that,
Sure.
I guess, can I ask you that question?
Sure.
Or whoever wants to address that.
He did submit a very, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm more than willing to do that, some type of old ghost sign, either in the heating and air or as the old lumber yard, since that is the only remaining, part of the building left, or the only remaining barn left, I should say.
Yeah, because that was one of my main things. Is I was looking at that park property and then hopefully, bought that building for.
And I-
And I just
I-
see that with the go signs and everything else tying in on both sides with, I believe we've already approved the go sign on the old firehouse building there. And I think, one on the other side would be incredible. So, and you're going to see that building from that park. I think it's a good project.
All right, thank you, trustee Berman.
I know that this has been brought up before. I'm not quite sure who brought it up before. But our downtown area is being tied into this property. And yeah, we definitely need to keep that surrounding area looking nice, because then otherwise it just defeats the whole point of it. And as I stated at the last meeting, in regards to the scoring, last meeting, there were old and new trustees that did have some confusion on it. And that's why I had suggested that, felt that something needed to be done with that. So.
Thank you, trustee Dominiac.
Well, first of all, I just want to kind of respond to a comment that was made. I certainly believe that building owners and landowners have the right to do whatever they want to their property. Whether or not the village should participate in that or not, I think is a separate question. I think in terms of the scoring, I do agree that we should have a discussion about that to make sure everybody's up to speed. But for those of us that were on the board when we passed I made the decision to implement the scoring. That document states is that staff would make the recommendation of the score and bring it forward to the board for discussion. It's not in concrete. It's not the staff's decision. It was a recommendation, like every recommendation from staff to the board. So everybody had an opportunity to have input into any score that comes before the board. So I think that's important for everybody to realize and remember. So in that vein, I am going to suggest that I am not in agreement that the visibility of the business from the main corridor arterial is a 4. I think this is off to the back. I certainly appreciate that we're going to be spending $10 million potentially on that park, and that we would want to make sure that the surrounding areas look good, but we don't even know what the park is going to look like. We don't know what's going to be down there. I think $20,000 is $20,000, and we have having discussions about how are we going to pay for everything that we have on our plate. So I'm really struggling with us giving money for this when we don't have a park yet. We don't know what the park's going to look like. We have a lot of projects, and $20,000 is $20,000. So I would not give that a 4. So that would bring the score down in my estimation. And then I have a question about providing necessary assistance to either recruit, which was one of the basic tenets for putting in these business incentive grants. And I think we also should have a discussion about whether or not we want to continue this policy of having business incentive grants and look at that differently, but we can't do that tonight, or retain an existing business. So why is that a 4? I don't know. So at the end of the day, philosophically, I'm not going to support this because I don't believe it meets the criteria. I don't think it meets the goal of that program, of that grant program. And I think we can use the money for other reasons.
Thank you. I think we're pretty clear here, so I think I'm going to ask for a roll call. Yeah, I didn't have a motion. A second to approve this resolution. We need a motion in a
I'll make a
second.
motion to approve the resolution.
I'll second.
Motion trustee Bluthart, second trustee Pierce. Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with trustee Dominiac. I think this could come back when the park's closer to be done to approve, so I'm gonna say no on it.
that's a no.
That's a no. I'm gonna agree with trustee Dominiac when the park's getting closer to be done, if we can come back. So I'm gonna say no at this time.
Peterson,
Yes.
Bluthart,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominiac,
No.
4 voting yes, 2 voting no, motion carries. Next item, and this should be brief since we already discussed this, is number 7, consideration and approval of an ordinance vacating White Road through the Clublands Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3, ordinance number 22-01-05. I'd entertain a motion and a second waiving the second reading.
So moved.
Motion trustee Peters,
I'll second.
second trustee Pierce. Any discussion on this? This was the item that was part of the public hearing, just so for refreshing everybody. Any discussion? All right, if no discussion, roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominiac,
yes,
6 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Last item on the regular agenda is consideration and approval of an ordinance amending Title V of the Municipal Code of Antioch regarding public health and safety. Ordinance number 22-01-06. I'd entertain a motion in a second.
I will waive this, I'll make a motion to approve and waive the second reading.
Motion trustee Dominiac, second trustee Pierce. I know that this is, we've had this presentation from Michael and the village attorney before. This is the, what we'd say, rental ordinance. So if there's any discussion, trustee Pierce,
I have no discussion, Your Honor. I think it's a long time coming.
trustee Masek,
I got no objections to this.
all right, trustee Peterson,
I have no comments.
all right, trustee Bluthart,
No comment.
trustee Berman.
I do have comments.
Yes.
So, I went back through and I reread this a few times just to make sure that I had the wording correct. I know there was a lot of talk about, the units being apartment buildings. And of course, I am in agreement that there are a lot of those units that need to be updated and, for safety and health. However, I do start to feel that there is an issue when it comes to single family homes. I understand why we're doing this, that it's because, landlords aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. However, there are landlords out there that are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and they have good relationships with their tenants. And I feel that this is, I know that it was said that the Fourth Amendment, that wasn't being stomped on. However, I do feel that it is an invasion of privacy for these people that haven't had any issues, and now they're going to have to schedule regular inspections for that and take time out of their day to be there for that. I think something needs to be, it needs to be rewritten so that if a tenant reports it or there's a neighbor, a lot of the time you don't even need to go into the home to know. You look at the outside and you know that there's issues there. So I think that it should be based on, the inspection. The village will need to inspect it if, the tenant complains.
I don't know if Mike or the village attorney want to respond to that, but I will, go ahead, Mike.
Well, just for the record, if somebody objects, and that's really a great point, and I respect your perspective completely, and I think staff, based on our discussions with the attorney, was very sensitive to that. Obviously, if somebody objects to any inspection, the village will have no factual basis to proceed with the inspection. So that would trump everything.
Okay.
Okay,
'Cause
we will not in any way force our way into any inspection. I think that's, that would do, unless there's, some type of court case, then there'll be due process, but we
And-
respect due process.
Sorry, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. The only, because there is something stated in there in the wording that if, and maybe that's where it got a little confusing. It states something about if the village feels that there's a need to get is it a circuit court
Correct.
search warrant?
Right, there will be
to-
due process where that person would have complete notice. They would have an opportunity to go before a judge, basically outline their case and so it would be due process. So consistent with the law.
Okay.
Are you satisfied with the answer?
Yeah, it is. And that is standard. It's an administrative search warrant. So we would literally go before a judge and the judge would have to adjudicate whether this raised to the level of us, let's say, breaching the threshold of privacy that's provided under the Fourth Amendment. So the reason of that is it gives us protection. It's not our determination. It's someone who has been sworn as a jurist in Lake County in the state of Illinois.
So, and sorry, I just want to make sure I get this correct. So, so if whether it be tenant or landlord, they deny you this inspection, this process, does, I don't know how to word this, does that warrant, I guess, that wouldn't be a cause to be like, okay, we need to go to the circuit court to get a search warrant for that, right? Am I understanding that correctly?
Mike, do you want to?
Yeah, that would be a separate, basically discussion internally with staff of whether, we have the prerogative to pursue a legal administrative action or not. That would
Okay.
be a decision.
Okay.
If we did, then we would have, had to go through the court process, and there would be, again, notice to the tenant or landlord. So they would have a complete opportunity to, outline their arguments to a judge. So, so nobody's forcing an inspection. Obviously, a judge would have the prerogative to, require an inspection if they found that there was merit to that.
Mr. Chair, if I may, the only thing that I would add is, and Mike gave a great explanation, we bear the burden of proof and persuasion, which means we have to bring the evidence to saying why we need to do this, and persuasion. I mean, we need to convince the judge that it's the right thing to do. So my point in saying that is I think it's an important concept. We're not going to go in there if we don't have a reason to go in there, because we would not have the burden of proof because we'd have no proof, and we'd not have the ability to persuade because there'd be no reason to do it. So it would have to be a real reason for us to, if that triggering event happens, to have to go to court. And that's probably what you, because I know you're concerned about the community, are worried about, that you don't want people being in jeopardy in their homes either. And that's what this is trying to avoid or try to cure for. And you also respects the Fourth Amendment rights of people who live in their homes.
Okay. I think that I would feel better. And as of now, the way that this is written, and I completely understand what you guys said. I cannot vote yes on this unless it's rewritten, and amended.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna go around. Trustee Dominiac?
I have no questions or comments.
All right, Trustee Pierce?
I would hope that we would find that owners of homes would say, look, we have a certificate of compliance. We're a good place. Look, we've been inspected by the village and they agree that we're a good place and we're worthwhile renting. And I would also hope that the village doesn't sit there and say, we're just going to go knock on everybody's door and tell them we're going to inspect them. We're going to take them to court. That it'd be the last resort. And typically my experience with the village is it's usually the last resort because we don't have, our staff doesn't have time and the effort unless there's a reason. In every code enforcement they do, because, there's better ways to get it done.
Thank you. Trustee Mason?
This is a question I have. So if someone makes a complaint, this is for the attorney. Someone makes a complaint to Lake County Housing Authority, and we have this ordinance in place, single family home. So if someone makes a complaint to the Housing Authority, do they throw it back on us to take control of the situation?
No.
No,
No, I mean,
They would-
it goes to the housing authority.
Yeah.
the Housing Authority, if they say, hey, I'm living in a rat's nest, this house has all these violations, the Housing Authority then says, well, the village has this ordinance in place, take it up with the village.
No, that would be a completely different situation because that would be a health, safety, and life, a health, life, and safety issue. So no, that is the housing authority aspect of it. While a good question, trustee, it's something we already have in place because if they say that it's a threat to the health of the community, we have a right to go in there and get an administrative search warrant the other way. So respectfully, that's kind of immaterial to this analysis.
So the only thing I'm asking is that we're not increasing our litigation.
No,
Okay.
Trustee Peterson, you're.
Yeah, just for clarification, trustee Berman, your worry here is we're talking about single family homes, right? We're not talking about apartment buildings. We're talking about single family
Yeah,
homes.
strictly.
Okay.
Yeah, yes.
So why couldn't we put in the ordinance? There will be an inspection if either the landlord complains or the renter complains. If there's a complaint, then there could be an inspection.
Yeah.
That way, the village isn't gonna knock on your door and say, you know, we need to inspect your home.
I would say it's a question. for
Yeah,
the attorney.
I'm just wondering,
Wouldn't
could
that
that,
open up a can of worms though? Because then the apartment owners could say we're looking at them differently than, they're still renters. They're still, whether it's an apartment, a condo or.
well, there,
townhome,
you know, there's
single
different rules, different zoning rules for multifamily versus single family. There's always different rules when you're talking multifamily and single family.
No, I agree, but
Part of the reason, and Mike, you could chime in on this as well, if you don't mind. It's okay, Mr. Chair. Part of the reason that it's been drafted this way, it's been analyzed by the people who are actually litigating this case in federal court.
Okay.
And that is the more discretionary aspects of this have been extracted, because that's actually, to me, the more discretion you get, rather than this becomes a mechanical thing, is the more likely you walk into the concern of a civil rights action, a Fourth Amendment action. The more mechanical this is, where if this happens, then that, and it's a process thing, it becomes less likely to trigger a lawsuit, and more likely that if you could file a lawsuit against anyone for anything at any point in time. Ask any lawyer that, they will tell you that. And the issue is whether we would dismiss it out. And that, to me, is really what we're looking at here, that the lawsuit would go out. The more discretion that's given, the more likelihood we have a lawsuit. The more mechanic and process oriented it is, the less likely it is.
Right. And I think going back to when this ordinance was first discussed, other concerns other than obviously the life safety of the property itself and seeing that it's habitable for rental in the beginning, but also to know what properties are rentals, who the property owners are, and who is living in those properties was another consideration in the drafting of this. So we, know how to, who owns what properties, and who's living where. Is that correct? Is that recollection correct?
It's correct.
Any other discussion on this?
I just want a definition now that we stumbled into the single family versus apartments. The way it's written now, whether it's an apartment building or a single family, they all should be inspected.
It's uniform, yeah.
Uniform.
Paragraph 2 under definitions 581, dwelling unit is the definition. A building or portion thereof designated to be used as a residence or single unit providing complete independent facilities for the exclusive use of a person or persons.
Okay.
The distinction between a single family home and an apartment, honestly, that to me, that's a distinction without a difference. Whether it's, the idea is we are regulating the industry of renting and making sure that it's safe for our residents, whether it's a single family home or an apartment. To me, that's a distinction that kind of concerns me if analyzed by a court of law.
And that's my concern. I want to make sure we're fairly applying to every rental property and not opening us up to a can of worms.
Sorry.
No.
Okay.
So they have it on the record, then.
So this is why, if you remember, there was a young lady by the name of Cynthia Grandfield, Grandfield. She is, like I said, she is literally litigating this for a neighboring community, and we don't drag our litigators into the drafting of legislation. So the reason we have her involved so much in this, and I think it's a good thing our law firm does, is when we see other people, let's not say make mistakes, but we try to learn on the issues that we've analyzed before so that you get the best possible product from us. And this is why these are the type of issues that we've talked about beforehand. And when we had to revise other legislation and other municipalities that are litigating this issue, this is what the courts have approved.
All right, any other questions, comments? Otherwise, I'll call for roll call. All right, roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominiac,
Yes.
6 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. All right, anything on the administrator's report tonight? All right, village clerk report. Trustee reports. I know there's been some reports that were circulated in writing. Any trustee reports that anyone wants to make? All right, there is no executive session this evening, so on that note, I would, let me, just for the record, Attorney Vaselli did find the statute, so
I apologize. I've talked way too much this meeting. So if I could read for all of you from 65 Illinois compiled statutes, 5/3.1-15-15, section 3.1-15-15, holding other offices. A mayor, president, alderperson, trustee, clerk, or treasurer shall not hold any other office under municipal government during the term of that office, except when the officer is granted a leave of absence from that office, or except as otherwise provided in sections 3.1-10-50, 3.1-35-135, and 8-2(9.1). Moreover, an officer may serve as a volunteer fireman and receive compensation for that service. The aforementioned sections 3.1-10-50, 3.1-35-135, and 8-2-9.1 are immaterial to the analysis of a deputy liquor control commissioner. So I will circulate. If you want me to, I could still circulate it, but that is the law. I apologize. I try to be pretty good about my recollection on statutes. I didn't have the citation, but I did recall it after Leah.
Thank you. And just real quickly, is that a paid office or paid or unpaid?
It does not. That's a great question, trustee, if I may.
Yeah.
Sure. It's not. It just says office.
Okay.
So I would say it's paid or unpaid.
all right. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I got one for my trustee.
Oh, trustee report?
Yeah.
Okay, yep. I didn't. I
Comment.
asked. I didn't.
That's okay.
But-
So I sent an email and I don't know why I take up these fights. So food truck during the wine walk events. So my understanding is food trucks coming into town for wine walks. There was one at the Limerick that gave permission, which was 100 feet from Taylor's on Toft. Mexican Paradise. Understanding the ordinance clearly says you cannot be 100 feet from a facility. That same food truck was in the parking lot of the Antioch Fine Wines 2 weeks prior. So I just don't understand the ordinance with this gentleman. I sent Mr. Keim and Mr. Garrigan pictures of the food truck. I thought the trustees had the power of authorizing food trucks during our events. I don't understand how that food truck got in our wine walk event. I thought we were the ones as board members that authorized food trucks, and that was to promote our downtown businesses. That food truck wasn't in there just to sit there and take away money from Taylor's on Toft, Lakeside Diner, Mexican Paradise. It just didn't make sense to me. So I think that guy was, special events. I get that for chicken barbecue, Taste of Antioch, but that didn't make sense because it violated the rule of being 100 feet from 3 restaurants during the wine walk. And that wine walk specifically states we're trying to help our downtown businesses. That's the destination. But then that food truck was next to the pizza place Caleona's Pizza, however you say it, say that pizza place, by Alex's Pizza Place. So I don't understand how that guy's getting away, because he was gonna come in and put a butcher shop in Ellie's Deli, didn't go through with this, so he figured, well, I'm just gonna get a food truck. And he's putting it right next to the guy's pizza place. And we don't have any punishment in the ordinance. So I think we gotta get the guy into a board meeting and say, what's going on here? Because he's broken the ordinance not once but twice. And during I don't think the ordinance was in when he parked the food truck during the Christmas time, when we didn't have it in place when he parked it in Parkway, and I'm sure he didn't have permission to park it in Parkway Bank at the Christmas time, but that's okay. Everybody needs to make a dime, but I'm sure, I talked to Alex, he sent everybody an email, and that's not been addressed by any board member. And I know a couple board members called Alex and saying, how can a guy put a food truck 50 feet from his business? It's against the ordinance. And he sent the copy of the ordinance. So I just don't understand how this guy can violate our ordinances. So I'd like the attorney to question, or because there's no punishment in the ordinance. So the only punishment would be to come in front of the board.
Yeah, I'll give it to the village attorney. I would say, the event last Saturday is different than I think what happened to Alex. And again, I think the fact that we have an ordinance so that we can address something like that was the initial goal. We knew it was not going to be perfect. But again, if there is a food truck parked at a non-village event right next to his business, I think that ordinance gives him the power to call the village or the police or whomever to issue a citation, and that is the goal of this. So yeah, I hate to hear that happened to him. There is language in the ordinance, if I recall, regarding exceptions for village sanctioned events, which again we can continue to discuss and refine the ordinance. But I'm just glad that we have something, because otherwise they could park wherever, whenever. And again, I think our goal is to do the best we can to protect our brick and mortar restaurants and businesses as well. So I know there's a couple other trustees that want to comment on this. I'll go to Trustee Bluthart, then Trustee Peterson, and I think maybe Trustee Berman. Go ahead, Trustee.
I guess my only question on that is, what is the proper enforcement mechanism? Are they, if someone's in, if a truck's parked in front of their restaurant and they want to file a complaint, do they call the police? Do they call the village? Who goes out? How soon do they go out? I don't know if we've addressed any of that in ordinance, and that's something that we need to advise our business owners about, because it's one thing to have an ordinance that prevents it from 100 feet, but if someone's sitting there, what do they do about it? We don't want to have fights between business owners and food truck people. We need to clarify that, I think.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'll read from the ordinance of section 4-15-6 violations. Any person or entity who shall be guilty of a violation of any of the provisions of this chapter shall be subject to a fine in the amount of $100 for the first offense, $250 for the second offense, $500 for the third offense, and $750 for the fourth or greater offense. A separate offense shall be deemed committed every day a violation occurs. This was debated on the floor. The amounts were debated on the floor, and the amounts were actually changed during the negotiations of this legislation or debate on this legislation. Furthermore, section 4-15-7, revocation or suspension of license. A license issued under the provision of this chapter may be revoked or suspended by the village for a violation of any provision of this chapter.
And I think
By the police.
by the
That's
police.
not
By the
Yeah,
police.
but-
Yeah, you'd have a hearing,
So,
but the
who
police.
who would Alex?
I
or
think the
owner-
police they would call the police. The police would issue a citation and then probably set it for a hearing on our Thursday call. But there's a good question to
If I may,
clarify this.
if I may,
Yeah.
I think the police could certainly make a report, refer it to code compliance.
Okay.
And then we take it from there. It probably wouldn't be a situation where you call on a Saturday afternoon and we make that food truck disappear on Saturday afternoon. But we could certainly then take an administrative action, against either by fining and citing that person or that entity that had the food truck, and, assigning those fines and or bringing it to the village board for revocation. So I think at this point, yeah, if it's on the weekend, maybe a policeman can make a report, and then code compliance is
I
going.
mean, and for my own clarification, say Alex took a picture of this truck parked right next to, photo evidence, things of that nature, obviously are sufficient rather than confrontation, I would assume.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we contact, like we do with all violations, we go contact the person,
There is
start a
no
conversation. and say,
immediate- There's no immediate resolve for this. I mean, if someone blatantly violating it, there's nothing we can do as a village. The police can't tell them you gotta be 100 feet away, or you can't, I think that's where your restaurant owners are gonna have an issue, is if they have to sit there and file a report and then wait 3 days, and maybe the guy gets fined. In the meantime, the guy's made $1,000. He could care less about the $100 fine.
I think there's certainly the power of a persuasive conversation that can be held with the food truck operator. But no, I think, in a situation where they're parked on private premises with premises owner approval, I think our powers be rather limited, forcing them to leave. I think the enforcement action comes in the power of the fine that could be levied by the village, and then ultimately the revocation of their ability to operate in the village.
And on the flip side, if we didn't have this, it'd be the Wild West. We could do nothing.
Well, my question's a greater question. If we have a village event, the wine walk, isn't it a greater responsibility to protect their brick and mortar and not let funnel cake trucks and all this come into our town, protect their brick and mortar for the event? I get we're making $20,000 on the wine walk, but isn't it the event to protect our store owners? And to reverse the idea, take Hannah's and have a truck full of, half price merchandise truck parked at a private residence selling half price merchandise. I mean, that would just be wrong. So, to protect the restaurants and everybody in the making, shouldn't the board have a decision when the food truck wants to come in to one of our events? Shouldn't the board have some say so? Shouldn't they?
And I think it's clear. Again, I can't keep pushing these to cow meetings, but I think when we passed this ordinance, we kind of knew that as this evolves and as more and more of these came in, we're going to have this discussion and set some policy or review the ordinance and make it, whether we have to find designated places for these trucks or whatever we decide. I do appreciate the concern of Alex and any other business owner that was concerned about it. And I think from a staff level and then from a board level, we can continue to discuss refining this.
Can I ask
Yeah.
one clarification on the trucks you're talking about that were by Toffs? Were those arranged by the village to come there, or they just happened to be there during Hawaii?
I think they had
Trustee
permission.
Masek, it sounds like, and if you're not saying that, I apologize. But it sounds like you're saying that the village arranged those trucks to be there.
No, they just showed up. All the
Okay,
restaurants.
so it wasn't a
all
part
the
of the
restaurants
wine
were-
walk.
All
or
the
anything.
restaurants were just like, why is the Limerick allowing them to use their spot? Why are they undercutting? Everybody else is selling hamburgers for $15 and he's selling them for $8, undercutting everybody.
Yeah.
So why are they taking business away from us? That's what all the restaurants were saying. So the board should say, have some idea of what's going on. They're taking, people could sit there and dine in our restaurants, pay our sales tax, and this guy comes in and selling hamburgers half price. That's the problem the restaurants are having.
And it's
No,
no concern. Okay, so again, we will reach out, and I specifically will reach out to Alex myself too. But I will, we will keep this on our radar. It's going to be an evolving target as the industry changes. So, thank you. Anything else? Otherwise, a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion,
Second.
Trustee Bluthart. Second, Trustee Pierce. Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Miniac.
6 voting yes, 0 voting no. Motion adjourned. Meeting's adjourned.